Oh shit! Ladies, gentlemen, gamers, welcome back. Happy Friday, everyone. I hope my future self knows to release this on Friday. It is currently Good Friday, and my god, has it been a good Friday. I was fiddling around with TikTok, and I'll be the first one to say I have to apologize to Mr. Chu, and I have to apologize to TikTok. I thought it was the website that was fucking up. But as with many things in my life, it was really me. So basically, I tried some cockamamie way to get the old ones to show up, but the screen only allows you a certain amount of TikToks on your DMs before it loads more. And the whole issue was when I loaded more, they would kind of shit themselves. So I eventually tried this weird workaround which didn't really work, and then I had to log back in, and my password apparently I forgot it, so I needed to redo that. And what ended up happening was I realized, like, wait, what if I just clear cookies? What if I just clear the cache? And you know what? It fixed it. We have all of our old TikToks back. All of the ones we sent ourselves, we have back. I don't have to go back. I don't have to think of some cockamamie way now to react to them. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know if I am gonna react to them anymore, but at the very least, we can stack up a lot of TikToks now. So that's what I did for this one. I stacked up a lot. This might be a long episode, so strap in, get ready, and I hope everyone enjoys. So we got a lot of topics to talk about, and I have a little bit of a auxiliary YouTube video on the side right here for us to go over. But we're going to explore why the dark dimension is so dark and the different examples of why, with hopefully some comedy mixed in. So as always, if you want to send me anything, you could send it to my main account, Tecnics. You could friend me on there. I'll accept all friend requests, and you can send me things. And if they're good enough, I will direct them to the Muscle Leg account on TikTok. But I will not be accepting friends on this TikTok. So please, friend my main and send me shit there, and if it's good, I'll send it to this one. But anyway, let's get right into it. So before we get right into it, as before, I've sent these to myself a little bit a while back. So I don't fully remember all of them, but there should be some comedy mixed in here too, because what's depression without comedic relief? But anyway, let's take a look. So I know some of the topics that we're going to touch on are the economy, as always. I don't know if there's any Silicon Valley Bank shit, but it's always the economy and the rich. Those are like the main two things. And what better way to start than with Starbucks? The people who have been union busting almost like Amazon and have been doing it illegally but don't care because they could just pay off any fine. Because that's what happens in the world of the rich. They will just pay off any fine and keep doing evil because it's actually more cheap to do that. It is cost effective to do wrong rather than do right, which is sad. Fuck, there's no sound. Let me fix that.
Great. This is.
Let's
I'd like
restart
to
it.
apply
Here we
to be a
go.
Starbucks barista. You're hired. Great.
Ooh.
This is a full-time job, right?
Yeah, right?
What was that? I'm scheduled for less than 20 hours a week on average.
And that means you're not full-time.
Reimbursement for online college tuition. 1 second.
Oh, they're discussing. Let me adjust the volume. I have my background music on.
No, you have to bargain. Come on, man. Fine, but we can't raise wages or expand benefits to unionized workers without a bargaining agreement.
You are breaking the law by not extending some benefits to unionized workers.
Oh, fine. Lawyers. We want the 32-hour week guarantee for full-time employees and more reliable schedules. And a $20 an hour starting wage nationwide.
Imagine
and a 100%
that.
employer-covered healthcare plan for full and part-time workers. And credit card tipping at all stores. Wait, are you leaving?
Yep, bye.
Well, we're striking at about 100 stores in 40 cities to make a
Close
point
them
to our
down.
new CEO.
Close them down.
So, did you guys catch Succession last night?
We did not.
We don't have to talk. Okay. I'd like to
And
apply
look
to
at
be a
that.
star.
Look at that. So, this is obviously pretty joking. I believe we've seen some stuff from this guy before. His name is Washington Post. I don't know if that has to do with anything about the news publication, but this guy's pretty good with his videos. Obviously, he hits on Starbucks. Now, this actually hits close to home for me. Every day when I used to walk to work, there was a Starbucks that was open a block away from my job. And I say used to as if I still don't, but you're going to see where I'm going with this. So there was a Starbucks open, and they always had this sign out, and it said, "Oh, we will service you with a smile. We love customer services. We love you." And every week I would look at this sign, and I would see on this sign they would write some new like thing that was obviously not them writing it. They were forced to. But it really was like sad because like these people in the fast food industry getting paid nothing, obviously, as this video says, getting little to no benefits, not being considered full-time workers. It's just terrible. And for the amount of work they have to do, it's disgusting. Because let me tell you this, Starbucks, man, that shit kind of look hard. At least it's maybe not hard, but it's definitely a high workflow environment. What do they call it? High stress environment. But anyway, yeah, so eventually they closed that Starbucks down, and I found out because they wanted to unionize. And you know what's ironic about this? There's literally a Starbucks another 2 blocks away. I don't know why they had that Starbucks there to begin with, if they had one 2 blocks away. But apparently they made enough money because, you know, rich people like convenience. They don't like walking 2 blocks, they like walking less. So I come to find out they shut the Starbucks down because they were unionizing because they were sick of getting paid shit. Dude, it's so sad how when unionizing happens, unionizing is one of the best things worker can do. And the sad part is corporations gaslight you into thinking it's bad. And for a long time, I thought unions were bad because they always said, the corporations always said, oh, you know, unions are going to take money from you and do nothing for you for no reason. So they're just siphoning money. They're corrupt. But a big thing in media, a big strategy in media that I learned in college with my media degree is corporations will blame everyone else, will blame their enemies for whatever they're guilty of. I don't know how, but historically speaking, this has been one of the most effective strategies in the public eye. I don't know how it works, but every single thing you are doing that you are guilty of, blame the other person of it. Even if it doesn't make sense, just do it. Do it before they do it to you. Do it before they call you out on your bullshit. And it works. And that's what happened. At least with me, I used to always think unions were bad because, oh, they take money out of my paycheck. Why would they do that for me? And it was only until recently I found out, oh, they fight for your rights. If you're unionized, you don't get fired as easily. You actually have some benefits. You know, it's good. Unions are good all around because it means the corporation doesn't have sole power to just do whatever they want. But anyway, we're in the midst right now of Amazon and Starbucks and probably a lot of other places, but Amazon and Starbucks are the main two that are really trying hard to union bust. They're lobbying to all hell, spending millions and millions of dollars trying to lobby the fuck out of the government to basically abolish the unions, because once they're there, they're very hard to get rid of, which is good. But you know, instead of paying those millions to the workers, they'd rather pay, because at the end of the day, it's cheaper to lobby than to pay people an actual livable wage. And I say cheaper as if they can't afford it, meanwhile they're making how much in profits. But anyway, that's the first video. Already we're off to a great start. Let's keep going here.
Surprise! The number of young
Oh, this is a
single
good
men in
one.
America is
This one hits a little close to home, not gonna lie.
at a record high. This is why.
This video, as well as most other pieces of media I've seen on the topic, make it seem like there's this rising tide of incels
Right here.
that are punching holes in their walls
Oh yes.
after being rejected for the millionth time.
Little fun fact. So I stream every day at Twitch TV/Tecnics channel. And on one game in particular, which is Overwatch 2, I decided to try and get gamer girls. And I have been rejected so many times. I actually have found some gamer girls, and I've been super cringe to them. But, you know, they've all rejected me. Nothing's basically happened so far. So I would definitely count myself in this little category here.
Or after yet another failed first date. That's not
Never even got to that part.
what's happening. The increasing number of young single men isn't primarily because young men can't get girls like they used to. It's
Yeah, I would say it is. At least partly.
because they're not really trying anymore. To them, it's becoming less and less worth it to spend their time pursuing romantic interests. And for the most part, they're right. In the same way that many women
Ooh.
find female-centered gender roles to be very outdated, many young men are starting to feel the same about male-centered gender roles. They're often
Facts.
thinking
It's okay when it happens to women, but it's not okay when it happens to men.
things like, why is it my job to always make the first move when I can't even remember the last time someone spoke to me first in public?
That is such a fact. Dude, it's so sad being a man, because one of the major things that's like really depressing about growing up from a boy into manhood is just how alone you are, how alone, how isolated, and how no one really cares. It really honestly feels as a man, and I think I speak for the majority of us here. it really feels like the world does not give a shit. Aside from like close friends and family, which sometimes are few and far between depending on who you are. Some people aren't, we'll say, fortunate enough to have all that. I'm also in that group. It's very sad because without even that, you feel even more just alone and isolated, and no one cares. Like, men have been basically primed, they've been conditioned to not show care for each other, because I know men out there feel this. I know this hits home for some people, but we're conditioned not to show emotion and not to, like, show remorse. The best we could do is like, oh, hang in there, oh, it'll get better, oh yeah. Like, the best thing men do to each other is, we know how it is, like, oh, you know how it is, I'm going through it. That's the main thing I always hear at my job, ironically enough. Oh yeah, could be better, oh, going through it, oh, it's a little tough right now. Yeah, what that means is it's not a little tough, it's very tough. But again, we've been conditioned.
Or why am I spending all this money on first dates and buying drinks at bars when I need 2 jobs just to get by and the
Oh yeah, don't even get me started about this. For longtime viewers of the series, you'll know the economy. I fucking hate it.
wage gap doesn't even apply for most people my age? Or why would I take on the role of emotionally supporting someone else right now when my emotional support systems are the gym and the gym? All
And that's it.
of which are valid questions. So what are they doing? They're just not playing the game. Instead, they're just focusing on themselves,
Let's
where they
go.
can get in shape,
Yes.
read more, pursue
Yes.
their interests, build
Yes.
side hustles, and overall just self-grow out of the need for a romantic relationship.
Now, this is something I'm going to put in here. This can be for both men and women. I'm a person of gender equality. Both genders can get these hands if they need to. But both genders should also reject for a long time what has been the norm, because a lot of it is not good, both for women and for men. It's a pick your poison. The men's side, obviously, it's very centered on us being emotionless. On the women's side, it's more of like, a lock that can open to any key is useless, but a key that can open any lock is hailed as, like, the omega key. So that kind of shows you the dynamic. I believe we should reject both of those on the man's side and on the woman's side. And even if a woman doesn't want to date and wants to improve herself, good for her. I think people should always go into a relationship and always just improve themselves in general. You should be all there before you dump anything on anyone else, personally.
Now, this isn't a video saying, oh, it's all women's fault, or oh, bring back traditional masculinity, or
No, both of those are bad. Both of those are wrong.
even to say that intimacy isn't good or needed. But
It is good and needed.
it is to say that the move here isn't just to pity young men simply because they're more single now. At this point, the lonely young man archetype just feels like a scarecrow whose arguments
Yes.
just distract from the conversations
Facts.
that young men actually want to have surrounding these topics. At the end of the
But
day,
we
we have to
can't.
acknowledge
Most
that
of us
this
can't.
increase in young single men isn't because they can't find anyone that wants to date them. It's more about how those very young men view gender roles, social expectations, and what they want for themselves. So the narrative shouldn't be, oh, young men are lonely and they need help dating. What it should be is that young men need an open conversation about how they can better fit into a society that needs them. As a young man myself, that's the conversation I would much rather have, and I think we deserve that.
Okay, so a lot of stuff to unpack here. Obviously, aside from me joking at the beginning, I hope that was obvious at least. He's pretty much very right, and it touches on a lot of different things. So basically, it's the same thing that I hope we get to one day with working, with this whole idea of the rat race. It's what's the point? The whole idea of the rat race is it's never ending. There's no point to it. You're just stuck in it, ever running in it. Now, with dating, I honestly do feel that a lot of men, me included, are just not trying. We're not trying because, again, the biggest issue for me, at least, is economically, and I feel like it's like that for a lot of other people, because the gender norm right now is the guy has to pay for everything. The guy should pay for the first date, this, and that. Like I said before, what wasn't a joke was the gender equality thing. Everything should at least be split 50-50, or I'll buy whatever I'm having, you buy whatever you have. You can do more, right? It's always appreciated to do more. It looks good, but you don't have to. It's not like a hard set thing, at least personally. This is where, I'm mixing in my own opinions on it, but, this is me reacting to TikTok, so it's all my opinion. So, I believe it should be not necessarily encouraged, but not a deal breaker. Like, oh, this man did not buy me food on the first date. I didn't bring my wallet, so he's gonna have to. Like, no, are you stupid, bitch? No. So a lot of people just aren't doing it. Again, A, because economically it's just not there, and B, a lot of us, especially me personally, just aren't ready. we don't know what to do and we don't want to do it yet. A lot of the things have to do with the current problems too. So not just economically, but the culture. A lot of women and a lot of men don't really want to get into serious relationships. They want to fuck around. So the people who are serious aren't going to want that. A lot of the culture and a lot of the dating scene, at least from what I've seen from my generation, is a whole bunch. It's a whole bunch of brouhaha. Let's be honest. It's a whole bunch of people being fucking horny, doing nonsense. Mostly, not all of them. But when that's the majority, it's bad because then the relationships are going to fail because people don't know how to act like an adult. But again, what are you going into it for? So one of the big issues this hits on, though, and this is an overarching issue for like the really long term, is population growth. If people are not getting together and there's more single men, babies are going to be staggered from being born. And as we're going to see with a TikTok later on that I'm going to react to, hopefully in the same episode, depending on how long it goes, we're going to see the birth rate is declining. It's starting to become an issue. I mean, even in the United States now, we're thinking of extending the retirement age to 70. Meanwhile, when that happens in France, we're going to see what they do. We're going to get to that. These are all topics we're going to get to. Retirement age, France, population, birth rate, the future, rich people as always. We're going to get to all these, but these are topics that also affect the dating scene, which then also in turn affects that. It's a whole web of interconnectedness. And because most of it is bad, that's what makes us in the dark dimension. When one thing is bad, it makes another thing bad, which makes another thing bad, and they all affect each other. So now we see it with the dating scene, because young men are labeled as incels because we don't want to date, because what's the point? What's the point when we're going to go out, waste money we don't have that we're probably in debt for, to have a date with some nonsense? And this could be on the girl side too. I'm not saying it's just for guys. This could be on the girl side too. Why would you go out, waste money on something that's not going to go anywhere and is nonsense? People take dating as if it's like speed dating now. Like you go with one person while you're talking to like two other people at the same time. Like what the hell? It's honestly a big culture thing. But then the culture is influenced by the internet, and the internet is just disgusting. So, and the celebrities. But anyway, that's, dating is bad too now. At least for men and for women in different ways. Next.
Josh Hawley is apparently taking this week to seek unanimous consent from the...
Look at this guy. Look at the picture they chose, by the way. So we got more TikTok banned stuff. So I don't know when TikTok's going to be banned. I've been hearing some mixed information about it. I heard that they did, or at least they're drafting a bill to ban it. So again, I don't know how long the series is going to go on. But until we get shut down, until TikTok gets banned, which, if that happens, we really, really are in the dark dimension for reasons hopefully I've described in the other videos. But, until that happens, we out here.
Senate to ban TikTok. No, this is not the Restrict Act we've all been hearing about.
So the Restrict Act was the biggest, brouhaha that they were talking about. I feel like I'm going to use that word a lot. It's not the Restrict Act, but the Restrict Act was basically as people were saying, the Patriot Act V2. And it's basically just a bill that uses TikTok as the vehicle to essentially do whatever they want to us, basically spy on us more and control us even more. Any internet presence you have, they can look at it and they could ban it if they wanted to.
Holly has a bill drafted, but has...
Look at this guy. This guy thinks he's a big cock, a big Chad cock.
Same day. It appears that lawmakers are realizing that the public is gaining knowledge of just how dystopian the Restrict Act is.
And you know what's crazy? This is the biggest equalizer. This was taught to me in schools, and it makes so much sense. There's two big equalizers in human history. Back in the day, for a long time in the history that humans have existed, if you were bigger, if you had more muscle, if you were genetically gifted, you won. You got to set the rules. You did what you wanted. It was based on strength. The first major equalizer to come in human history that changed this was the invention of the firearm. No longer did I have to be bigger and stronger than you to have an opinion. I can have a gun. So that was the first equalizer in terms of strength. The second equalizer was in terms of information. And you know what that was? It was the internet. Now that the internet is here, the elite, the wealthy, and the fucking assholes in power who are abusing their power, they can't pull the wool over our eyes as much as they used to. Now, obviously, me being the media major, they still could do it in very nefarious and underhanded ways that they've been doing for well over 100 years now. They've definitely been doing it. They've only gotten better at it. But you can only get so good. And a lot of people, because the internet is so big and so unregulated, which is why they want to restrict it, a lot of people are privy to this shit now. You can't hide everything from us anymore.
And that the people are learning too much from,
Yep.
you guessed it,
TikTok. There it is.
Senator Hawley is using the same process that banned the app from government phones by seeking unanimous consent within the Senate, which then fast-tracks it to the president for signature. The more typical debate and revisions process is for when the Senate isn't united and concessions need to be made, which, as we saw last week in Congress, there's
They're
a pretty
united.
front.
You know why? Because they've been lobbied by fucking the Zuck.
It appears that lawmakers will continue to work on the Restrict Act as well, but they feel it'd be much easier to pass if people would quit telling the world about it on the platform that started this whole thing. Senators Mark Warner and John Thune are also looking at presenting competing bills. Senators seem surprisingly anxious to make sure they get the legacy of passing such a ban instead of addressing the revamp of the entire industry. Lawmakers seem...
So they don't want to address the revamp of the entire industry because that's too much to do and that's going to take too long. And then there's actually going to be disagreement over it from the other party's opposition. And then they're going to have to give concessions, which they don't want to do. And it's going to be a whole mess. They'd rather just ban TikTok and then sneak in shit from there.
Seem convinced that the most logical step to stopping free speech is to stop free speech so that it can continue the process with a less informed public. We've also seen this last week that legacy media seems uninterested in informing the public about the full ramifications of the Restrict Act, as they seem to feel it will not affect them.
And you know why they're doing this? Not because it won't affect them, because they're owned by the people making the fucking laws. They're all owned by rich people, and the rich people in the conglomerates of BlackRock and stuff, or maybe it's Blackstone, I don't remember. All of these places own all the companies anyway. And they lobby Congress, and guess what? Meta. Meta is the main one.
And that in itself should tell you something. It's time for everyone who disagrees with this to start letting their senators know that if they support this, then they should look at updating their resumes come next election.
So this is the hard part of, I think we're finally near a time where, and I don't know how this happens, and I say this almost every episode, we know what's happening. A good majority of us, well, I hope, know what's happening now. We see it, but we're not doing anything about it. This is the whole thing I don't understand. I feel like eventually, right, the only weapon that we really have right now is, oh, don't let them do this. Say you're not going to vote for them, which should scare them. But I honestly feel like eventually we're going to find out, oh, the elections are rigged, or like, you know, they were tampered with, or they just didn't care and they voted themselves back into office, or they're going to make some rule changing how they stay in office for longer, or something unfair. I mean, you know, look at our American history. It's not like we've disenfranchised people from voting before, right? Especially a whole group of people. So it's not like it's something new that's happened. So it just baffles me how this is known, it's happening, it could get worse, and it's not really changing, and we have almost very little power to stop it. I'm very scared that in the future, eventually, it's going to get to a point where we can't stop it, even if we are in the majority. Just because either A, we've been brainwashed by the media, or, you know, we just don't simply care, or B, they've rigged the system up so much that we just can't do anything against it, which is honestly what it's leading to. Because if they pass the Restrict Act, we lose a lot of our freedom online. We just do. So they're actively now seeing, okay, this is a vehicle of power for people who are not rich to, you know, start learning about how fucked we do things. We need to stop it. They're scared. I honestly believe they're scared. But it is what it is. Let's go next, because this is depressing.
Have you ever wondered...
I want to get to like a funny one. Oh, but here we have AOC. Let's see what AOC has to say. She's actually my congresswoman, believe it or not, in New York. She represents me. And I actually wrote her and I didn't receive a response back. But I told her, I actually did my due diligence, and I wrote to her, do not ban TikTok, fight against it, or else I'm not voting for you. But little does she know I don't vote anything. But I know AOC is a little polarizing. I don't know why. I actually like her. I do think she overreacted a little bit to certain jokes that were made about her that were like in good fun. That happens to everyone. But I can't blame her for necessarily getting heated. But one thing I do like about her is she plays video games. And she plays the same ones I do, like League of Legends, which I play every day, or try to, live at Twitch TV Tecnics channel. But anyway, let's see what she has to say. So, ironically enough, I'm going to spoil the surprise here a little bit. She actually says something I agree with, and I'm actually very shocked.
Why our political system is so broken?
I'm gonna be the bad guy, which I'm sure half the room would agree with anyway.
Wow.
And
She knows that people don't like her. That's funny.
I want to get away with as much
Now, this is where, again, right? She's literally putting it out in front of them. I'm honestly shocked after what she's going to say here that she doesn't get a hit out on her, that, like, someone doesn't assassinate her from, like, the wealthy elite.
Bad things.
Because believe it or not all the politicians and Congress people are corrupt. A lot of them are, they're pretty rich, they're pretty affluent. And by pretty, I mean, like, maybe in the millions. Maybe even if we're pushing it tens of millions. But those are the uncorrupt ones, if you can even call it that. I feel like if you're in Congress at a certain point, you're some level of corrupt, but you're going to be very corrupt if you have a lot of money. The more money you have, in my mind, the more corrupt you are. And some politicians, I believe, don't have a lot of money, so aren't too corrupt, because a lot of that money comes from lobbying.
As possible, ideally to enrich myself and advance my interest. I've enlisted all of you as my co-conspirators.
Look at these
So you're
facts
gonna
she's about to
help
spit.
me
Ready?
Legally get away with all of this.
Legally.
On a campaign that is entirely funded by corporate political action committees. Is there anything that legally prevents me from doing that?
No.
No.
Which is
So
stupid.
there's nothing
Strike
stopping
one.
me from being entirely funded by corporate PACs, say from the fossil fuel industry.
So basically getting lobbied. Basically, you'll become their shill. You'll vote for stuff that's pro them. Once you get into office, you'll vote for things and push things that will actively help them get more money because they gave you money. And without money, you can't get into office, let's be frank. So you could see how the cycle runs itself here.
The healthcare industry, big pharma, I'm entirely 100%.
100%.
And let's say I have some skeletons in my closet that I need to cover up so that I can get elected.
Which most people do because we're people. We're people, we do some fuck shit sometimes, we all have skeletons. It's the problem when they get out, and now because everything's on the internet or everything requires an internet connection to do, that's what happens. It gets hacked or the government is watching it anyway.
Green light for hush money. I can do all sorts of terrible things. It's totally legal right now for me to pay people off. And that is considered speech. Use my special interest dark money funded campaign to pay off folks that I need to pay off and get elected. So now I'm elected, now I'm in. I've got the power to draft, lobby, and shape the laws that govern the United States of America.
Which, as we've seen, are not for the people, they're for the rich.
Any hard limit that I have in terms of what legislation I'm allowed to touch?
No.
Are there any limits on the laws that I can write?
You can make the country almost entirely for a certain people.
There's no limit.
So there's none. So I can be totally funded by oil and gas. I can be totally funded by big pharma. Come in, write big pharma laws, and there's no limits to that whatsoever.
That's right.
You could just make things unfair. It's almost like there's no checks and balances.
The thing I want to do is get rid
Or even if there are, they're all corrupt. So what check are you going to do if there's no balance anymore? Like, no one cares because they're all in on it together. They're all colluding.
with as little work possible. That's really what I'm trying to do as the bad guy, right? So is there anything preventing me
Oh, and here's the real kicker that I love.
from holding stocks, say, in an oil or gas company, and then writing laws to deregulate that industry?
To get more
and
money.
Cause, that could potentially cause the stock value to soar and accrue a lot of money in that time.
Look at this shit. The member of Congress literally bought stocks. It shows it. People know this stuff because it's public knowledge.
You could do that.
So I could do that. I could do that now with the way our current laws are set up.
In fact, not only could you do it, a lot of people do it, and it's encouraged. The saddest part is, I don't know if AOC does it. I believe she might. There's a person online called something Wales. I forgot what his name is. But it has something to do with Wales. And he tracks all of the senators' buying and spending of stocks, right? Buying and selling. And he shows them doing it. And, honestly, if one senator came out, like, my boy Jeff Jackson from North Carolina, I believe it's North Carolina. We're going to see him soon, hopefully. Jeff Jackson, I hope I'm getting his name right too. If I find out he's doing it, which he's revealed all his financials, so it doesn't look like he is. He seems like, one of the few uncorrupted ones as of yet. But if it comes out that he's doing it, obviously I'll be a little sad, but, you making the statement of, oh, I won't do what everyone else is doing. Okay, cool, it's commendable. But now you're at a weaker spot financially, which you need to be strong to be able to even fight this thing. You need to use evil to fight evil. It's the common saying of, you need the master's tools to dismantle his house. It's a very good quote. Okay, this music is loud as fuck. I'm gonna lower this. Excuse the Spotify real quick. Don't look at it. Don't look at it. Okay, cool. But yeah, it's really sad because I can't blame them for doing it. It's like it's the same thing with Trump, right? They asked Trump, "Hey, do you abuse the tax laws? Do you like take tax breaks?" And he's like, "Yes, I do." And I was shocked. He said, I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yes, I do it." And why do I do it? Because everyone else in this room does it. You all do it. And you know, he's true. It's true. Look at all these people looking. They're like, damn.
Okay, great.
Damn.
Is it possible that any elements of this story apply to our current government
All
and
of
our current
it.
public servants right now?
Public servants, by the way.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Look, they all say yes, they
So
know.
we have a system that is fundamentally broken.
And it's not going to get
we have
fixed.
these influences.
Because guess what it is? It's broken for the wrong people, right? It's fixed for the right people. And by fixed, I mean it's fixed in a certain way. It's good for the rich people, it's bad for everyone else. And as long as it's good for the rich people and they're the ones making the rules, why would this ever change? The only way this changes is if we have what's going on in France, which we're going to see later on.
Existing in this body, which means that these influences are here in this committee shaping the questions that are being asked of you all right now. Would you say that that's correct, Mr.
Yes.
Or Mr. Shelby?
Yes.
Yes.
Have
Like,
you-
bro, they literally can't say no. I'm surprised they're saying yes. But yeah, I'm surprised AOC doesn't have a hit out on her head. But it's very sad because my skeptic ass at this point, with everything I've seen from the internet and everything that I'm showing in these reactions and in these videos, I'm trying to get people to be like me. Number one, skeptical. But number two, depressed. But what ends up happening with me is I wonder if she's taking the high ground here just so she could seem better, but she doesn't really want to do anything. Because, again, I automatically think this now. Anyone in a high position of power has done something fucked up or wrong. Granted, that is changing now. There's a lot of self-made millionaires, especially of my generation, because money, you can make a lot of money online if you do the right thing. A lot of people now are becoming millionaires and having a lot of money that aren't corrupt. It's not too often, but it's more than it used to be. Money was not just, it's not anymore just a old white person from a long lineage of certain, dealings of people that you got rich from. Now it's changing. Now it's getting more spread out between different people, which is good. Let's keep going. We're spending too much time on these videos, but this is probably going to be a long one, like I said.
So I don't want to be the bearer of bad news and deliver more negative news to you.
Let's do it. Give it to us.
But you guys already know it's my obligation to kind of deliver information based on money so that you can prepare.
Oh, shit.
And a friend just sent me something that I cannot actually believe, and it is real. So let me show you.
Oh, let's see this.
This article just came out. It says...
Oh, what a surprise. Look at the title. Look at the title. The Fed's operating losses become taxpayer losses. It's almost like the government does stupid shit and they make us pay for it even though they can afford to pay for it, but they don't want to because they want to milk us for money. This episode I'm really sounding like a conspiracy theorist, like anti-government. I'm not saying I'm those things, but listen, I'm just getting pissed at what I see. And I'm assuming some of it's true.
The Fed's operating losses becomes taxpayers' losses. And let's get into the article.
Always.
The year 2023 is shaping up to be a financially challenging one for the Federal Reserve. The Fed is on track to post its first annual operating loss since 1915.
Oh, sweet Lord.
The annual loss will be large, perhaps $80 billion or more.
Oh, yeah, just chump change.
And this cash loss does not count the massive unrealized mark-to-market losses on the Fed's fixed-rate securities portfolio. An operating loss of $80 billion would, if properly accounted for, leave the Fed with negative capital of $38 billion at the end of 2023.
Bruh, we're using negative money at this point. I mean, we're already in debt billions of dollars. I don't know if that's the same thing they're talking about, because we've had debt for a while, so this might be a little misleading. I'm not too personally sure. And again, I want to show things and show I'm not fully for them, because there's a lot of people who don't know what the fuck they're talking about, fear-mongering people that look like they do know what they're talking about. I'm not saying that this guy's doing it, but this kind of sounds like how much we're in debt, so this is nothing necessarily new.
And these are the same people that we pay to get the economy under control, and they don't know how to get themselves under control.
Yeah, because they're fucking doing nonsense.
So now has never been a more important time for you to understand money and how money works, because as you can see, you cannot be dependent on them anymore. So keep...
Well, we kind of have to be dependent on them because, you know, how can we not use money? How can we not use the dollar? And who controls the dollar? Them. So I really don't understand what this guy's trying to do.
Following this channel, I will give you as much information as I can to help you get where you need to go.
And that's why he's saying what he's saying, because he wants to advertise to us. There is some modicum of truth in what he's saying, but I feel like some of it's fear-mongering. But, you know, I wanted to show that. Not everything that's said here, and I always say this, I fully agree with. And you should always take things with a grain of salt. Important life lesson, everyone.
So here's the disturbing statistic of the day.
Oh, let's hear this.
If the top 1% of
Oh,
Americans,
yes. Oh, I like this one. My favorite
1%,
topic. Top 1%.
pay their taxes.
Yep.
Not have their taxes increase, not pay more taxes.
Pay what they're already supposed to pay that they don't pay.
If they just paid the taxes that they're supposed to pay, instead of going through all these tax loopholes to avoid paying, instead of paying lobbyists to write laws for them so they can save money because it costs less to pay the lobbyists than it does to pay their taxes.
And the biggest thing, you know, I've been saying this before with the other example of it costs less to do this, so why wouldn't you do this, right? If it's legal and they control the laws, so it's going to be legal, why would you not do it? If you could save money and it's really something that's no different from you because someone's doing it for you anyway. If you had to get a guy to dry clean your clothes, would you rather pay $30 or would you rather pay $10? Both people are going to come to you. You're going to pay the guy $10. Are you going to blame anyone for choosing the guy who's going to pay $10? No. But in terms of the rich people and what they do, they're going to pay the less amount of money to do the morally wrong thing for everyone else, but not for them. And this is where they're assholes for this, to make the laws better for them and worse for everyone else, monetarily. Now, this goes into my second thing of, and I've mentioned this before, what is the point of it all? What is the point of having this much wealth? You already are not going to starve. Like, what, do you want to buy like 50 islands? Do you want to own a country? Do you want to be like Elon Musk and be able to buy a whole country, have more money than a country? For what reason other than your ego? It doesn't make sense. A lot of people, and I don't know if this is because of the internet age. I don't know if this is just because how we are naturally. I obviously think it's more towards that. But a lot of people are greedy and they make their bubbles. These people are my people. Everyone else is everyone else. Not my problem. I'm going to make my people good. And we have insatiable greed that does not stop. And the worst part is, because everyone else is in this environment where they have to be greedy to survive, once they make it, they keep that greed because it's instilled in them. It's, again, a never-ending cycle. And that's a lot of what our society is. It's very sad. But what this guy is saying is so sad that they're not supposed to, like, they're not doing what they're supposed to do that everyone else does.
If they just paid their taxes, this country would raise $175 billion more per year. That is enough money to bring every man, woman, and child in this country out of poverty.
Well, yeah, but is it enough to clear our debt? I don't think so. Our debt is like in the trillions, right? So that's actually a drop in the bucket almost when you look at the grand scheme of things. So yeah, obviously if our government used that money for us, sure. I mean, look at Ukraine, right? Our government sent how much money to Ukraine? And we could have used that money on us. We can always use a lot of money on us. It's just how we allocate it. My biggest thing is, does he think the money is going to get allocated to us if we tax the rich properly? No, it's going to go to other things. It's going to go to warfare. It's going to go to lining their pockets. It's going to go right back into their pockets anyway, just different pockets. So, honestly.
So the only thing really standing in the way between us and that is these greedy fucks.
I agree with that. I don't agree with everything, but I agree with that. Next.
Nancy Pelosi just gave the 2-minute warning. If you follow financial news, you know that Nancy Pelosi just sold off a whole ton of stocks for a massive loss.
It's Nancy Pelosi that always does this shit.
And the only reason I follow her is because she's notorious for insider trade, or more accurately...
Bruh, if she's notorious for it, why is she not getting arrested? Why is she allowed to keep doing it? And again, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but it's because she's the people who make the rules. It's so stupid.
Her husband...
The whole system is fucked.
...makes a lot of amazing predictions as to what the stock market is going to do. So somebody with insider information pretty much has just blown the whistle that the stock market is going to crash very soon. Last night I was talking to somebody that gets a lot of their product for their business from overseas, and they usually buy it in bulk, but they're not allowed to buy it in bulk anymore because in the last week, the American dollar has lost so much value on the international market. So for every dollar that you have in your pocket, on the world stage, you've got 80 cents. So before that drops to zero, you might want to go grocery shopping, get gas, and probably a helmet, because shit's going to get crazy.
Okay, so this is where he's fear-mongering a little bit. I don't know if he's making a joke, because with this sort of stuff, a lot of the people can't tell. Even I can't tell if he's making a joke or not. But if he is, it's a joke in poor taste, because even though the dollar is quote-unquote, from what people are saying, going down, there's actually a video we're going to see later on about the dollar and if it really is going down or not. It's quite a long video, too. But, essentially, the dollar's not going to go down to zero. That's just like a plain dead lie. He's trying to incite fear and well, I don't know about violence, but he's definitely inciting fear. But ultimately, this is just disgusting that it is known. Like, bruh, insider trading should be fucking disallowed. Like, oh my god, the punishments can't be a ban, or not a ban, sorry. The punishments can't be a fine because they can pay it off. It needs to be something that actually is a punishment. It's so stupid. Next. Oh. So we got a little slideshow here. I'm going to go through these. That music is copyrighted, but it doesn't matter. I think this is a feel-good slideshow, but I don't remember because we're still from the stuff that I sent myself a while back, so I don't remember fully what it is. But let's see. The 6 secrets of highly successful people: own property. True. Extract surplus value from the working class, who must sell their labor to survive. Because again, technology, it was supposed to make it so we survive easier, but no, we didn't care. By politicians, the fact that that can even occur is sad. Control the media. Done. Control the education system and ruin it. Done. Rely on the state to enforce the social hierarchy with violence. I don't know about that one. Next. Okay, let me see a lot of these. A lot of these are probably long. This one's good, though. People's fucking lives versus profit. That is very accurate. Here we could see the life expectancy versus the health expenditure. Wow, look at the U.S. The U.S. has one of the worst healthcare systems in the world, man, I swear. It's so bad. And I can say this with actual experience because I have poor people's insurance, which I don't even know if I can keep, and I'm scared to call them in case I lose it, right? Because I've said this before. If you have a minimum wage job, minimum wage, and you're working even part-time, if you are in New York working part-time, 20 hours a week, on the minimum wage, which is not even enough to rent if you're working full-time. You can't even afford rent, average rent, if you work full-time in a minimum wage job. If you make that much money part-time, 20 hours a week, half of that, you are still not eligible for life insurance, free life insurance, aka the poor people's life insurance. You are considered above the poverty line, even though realistically, you should be in the poverty line making minimum, but somehow you're not. But it's so backwards that I have this poor people insurance because I was unemployed, and I still have it, and because the system is the system, they haven't asked me what's going on yet because of COVID. That's long past now. But this insurance is so bad. The doctors I get, the people I can see, they're not the best of people. You know, they are doctors at the end of the day, but they really don't care because they can't bill me because I can only see them once a year and my insurance won't allow me to do anything else. And if the insurance doesn't allow it, they know I can't afford it. So they don't really give me stellar care. Now, obviously, this could be a one-off thing, but this is anecdotal, but I've heard it from other people too. Free insurance, it's insurance, sure, it is free, but it's free for a reason. Let's just say that. Next image. Did a car write this story? E-bikes are convenient. They can also catch fire and destroy buildings. Like, what is this? What is this? This is obviously from, like, someone who either, I mean, he's probably rich. He has a check mark by his name, and hopefully that meant something back on Twitter. But, he's probably rich, or he maybe works for a car company. Who knows? But this is disgusting. E-bikes are not that bad. Granted, they are a little unsafe, but so is a car. So is a car, with especially how they're building them now. Louis Rossman goes over that, right, to repair and everything. But, you know, everything is just bad. E-bikes are not that bad. Capitalism is based on the ridiculous notion that you can enjoy limitless growth in a closed, finite system. In biology, this such behavior is called cancer. Now, see, I do like showing these things, but I'm always scared that this is too charged, because I feel like I'm a little grounded. I hope the people this reaches, because obviously I have thousands of people watching these almost hour-long, if not more, reactions to TikToks. I'm scared that the thousands of people who watch these might get too charged from some of these, because again, I like to point out that not all of these are things I agree with. This is very charged. Brussels Airlines runs 3,000 empty flights to maintain takeoff and landing slots. Thank God I washed out that used tin of chopped tomatoes to recycle the can. Cool bug facts. The first airplane attack on US soil wasn't Pearl Harbor, but in 1921, the Battle of Blair Mountain, where the US dropped bombs, including chemical gas shells, on striking Union co-workers. So always back to the unions. Since the inception of this country, or at least what it feels like, the government hasn't taken too kindly to unions. Why? Because that gives the people rights and makes the rich people not make as much money. And what do? Chemically gas them. Or chemically bomb them with gas shells. Like, what the hell? Anyway, we could automate menial jobs so people have time to make art and music, but apparently we'd rather automate art and music, which is very true, and that's getting scary in and of itself nowadays, with the automated AI voices and stuff, and art. So people have time for menial jobs. Very yes, sir. It's actually crazy because I feel like overall we are going to get to a point in society where it's actually cheaper to just pay people, if we don't go into dark shit where, they start killing us. But it'll actually be cheaper if we don't go into the dark alternative, like I just mentioned, to just give people almost like a socialist system of you just pay them a certain amount of money so they don't do crime, so they don't start pillaging people, because eventually that pillaging is going to go to the rich, because who do you pillage? The person who has nothing or the person who has everything? But it's going to eventually become cheaper to do that because AI and automation is going to save rich people so much money. A lot of the big issue behind automation is what's going to happen to the, so-called ever-increasing population of the human race if a lot of the jobs that people used to get, that the majority of people used to get, they no longer can get. At that point, there's too much competition for jobs, and there's more people, there's less jobs. You can kind of do the math there. So it's actually going to be cheaper to just maintain society with the profit. Hopefully, if the rich people aren't too greedy, to actually just pay them a wage without them working. I don't know if we're ever going to get to that. I don't know if we're even going to get to that in my lifetime or get close to it, but it makes sense from one point of view. Next, the system is guilty. They profit while we work. I mean, we have to work, right? People have to work. Someone has to work. Now, I call it the shit end of the stick. Someone has to get the shit end of the stick because that's the only way something gets done. Someone's going to take advantage. Someone's going to take the shit. It's just a tragedy that it has to be so many people right now. Next. How many photos are in this album? On the phone I can see, on this I can't. Yeah, this one's a little charged here. But yeah, that's basically the slideshow. Pretty good. Hey, look, it's this guy again. Wait, is this the guy we saw before?
Telling the waiter that the mayonnaise is too salty, failed today in his attempt to get unanimous consent to ban TikTok. As I reported yesterday, Holly had put together a proposal.
Okay, yeah, so this is a continuation. I thought it was the same video. Let's see what this is. I still don't remember these yet.
It was a simple TikTok-only ban without all the messy parts of the Restrict Act. I couldn't share the bill with you because he wasn't releasing it, choosing instead to present it and vote the same day. Well, not
lovely.
spoke out against
He's trying to rush it through because if people catch wind of this and they don't get it immediately passed, people are not going to agree with this.
The bill, just one man did.
They're trying to sneak it.
And that man was Rand Paul. This is actually pretty on brand for someone like Rand Paul. He's a libertarian Republican. We don't have time here for all the nuances of what that means, but basically he believes in things like free speech and less government. He also believes that TikTok needs to be treated as a speech platform and that the government should not single it out. He also went on to state that everything TikTok is being accused of, Meta and many others have already shown to be doing. And while broader regulations may need to be discussed, banning the most used speech platform in America is not the solution. He believes that the fact that 150 million Americans are on the app, that while being seen as a risk to some, it is now also the exact reason that a simple ban is no longer an option.
So I'm going to stop it here because I have a lot of things to say, and I'm probably going to forget most of them. But from what I know, and I'm not too connected into politics, but from what I've heard and what I know, a lot of people don't like this guy Rand Paul. And the fact that he's saying something that they're agreeing with and they don't like him means, you know, it more likely than not is right. If someone you hate is saying something that you agree with, that really goes to show you that it's probably correct. So the big thing that this shows to me, or the big question I have, it's the same thing with AOC. It's the question of, is he doing this because he actually believes this, or is he doing this to try and get, you know, good social standing, or as in China we'd call it good social credit? Is he trying to do this even though he's, you know, he's going to pass the bill whether we know it or not, right? Is he just saving face and prove it, or trying to say publicly like, yeah, you know, I'm with you guys, and then if it ends up getting passed, you know, we'll see Rand Paul's the guy who tried, right? We'll have a better opinion of him. Who knows? Because again, I don't trust our government anymore, and that's the big theme. Our government is not to be trusted with at least our well-being. The majority's well-being, sure, but you know, the majority of a certain people.
He points out the hypocrisy of the U.S. government, who compiles massive amounts of data on its own people through U.S. tech companies, while pointing at just one app saying that collecting data for them should put you in fear. He cited that in June 2020.
I mean, granted, American government, like I just said, you know, they collect our data, right? They don't do the things that are usually in our best interest, but I believe they're in a better interest than a foreign body, right? Who would you rather trust if they had to get your data? China or the US? I mean, both of them getting it, you know, regardless of which one is not good. But at least I live in the US, so I'm assuming the US has at least more of a stake in me. You know, they want to protect me with that data. China wants to use it to profit and doesn't really probably care about us. They care about their own people. So even though the US is doing it, this is where there's a big distinction and a big difference. And that's the fact that we're a part of the US. So yeah, they're using it to spy on us. Yeah, they're using it to milk us. But I think it'll be better than if China gets it, honestly. If China's even doing that, which, you know, they probably are.
21, Newsweek reported that big tech companies complied with 85% of the U.S. government's request to turn over your personal data.
Disgusting. Like, again, this is the shit I'm talking about. How the fuck is that just known by people, and people aren't marching to the government and demanding blood? I don't get it. Granted, I'm, you know, part of the problem. I'm not going to go demanding blood, but I'm too scared.
That data includes phone calls.
I'm telling you, what America is becoming and what all of this is causing, it's causing us to become a powder keg. The worse things get and the more people feel like it's bad, because it is, but even if it's not, the more people that feel like it's bad is going to lead to a powder keg moment where all you need is a match. Once you light the match, the United States is going to become like France.
Emails.
And we honestly should. Honestly.
Texts, photos, shopping histories, driving routes, and more. The main companies that were named were Apple, Google, Facebook, and Microsoft.
Wow, what the majority of people use.
Receiving over 112,000 data requests. Know what company wasn't named? TikTok.
Well, no, duh, they weren't named, because guess what? TikTok doesn't work for our government, they work for China, if they are working for anyone at all. So it's kind of stupid to bring in that fact. That fact is very deceptive. Again, I don't agree with that ending part. But most of what he says is probably true. I haven't fact-checked it, but again, you know, if you sound confident enough, I'll believe you. And, you know, it's just sad. But yeah, no, the stupid TikTok thing at the end, like, oh, guess who didn't, you know, submit to data requests? TikTok. Well, no, duh, they don't work for the fucking U.S. government. Why would they? Like, are you stupid? You egghead? I don't mean to be mean, but anyway. Oh, this is disgusting. This is disgusting. Oh my god. So, remember before we were talking about the Starbucks unions? This was their CEO. I believe he's their former CEO, but I don't remember. But he's been testifying that, you know, everything is good at Starbucks. We comply with the laws. We do nothing bad. What you would expect any CEO to say, or anyone who's been caught to say. Almost no one's going to say, you know, hey, yeah, you know, I did it, right? Which, you know, reminds me of what Trump said. Like, yeah, I use the tax laws. Yeah, I go around tax. I don't pay my fair share of tax. Why? Because no one else does it. Why should I have to do it when no one else in this room does it? Like, I was so shocked he actually just came out and said it. I'm like, holy shit. But, you know, Howard Schultz is a piece of shit. Let's see him get exposed. Fairly. False.
A partner who experienced sexual harassment from one of our managers was terminated after reporting it.
Ah, yes, lovely. Retaliation.
We do nothing that is nefarious.
That is the biggest lie in the world, Mr. Schultz.
We put our people first.
Yeah, bullshit. You put your profits and your shareholders first. And, you know, it's sad because I used to own Starbucks, but I sold it.
Make decisions based on our people.
No.
And we have the track record to prove it.
See, this is true. They probably might have a track record to prove it, but that is a curated record. Let me tell you this, right? This is basically what these big companies do. Okay, guys, we're using child labor in Africa to get cocoa, right? Let's say I'm Hershey's. Okay, we have 50 children, slaving away making cocoa. We're paying them like pennies. Okay, let's take one child. Let's send him to school, right? Let's not have him work. Let's send him to school. Let's sponsor his school. Because these children are making us, millions of dollars. Let's take some of that. Let's take like 10,000. Send this kid to school and show it off that we're good. Okay, cool. You probably have helped certain people, but you probably did it to show that you're helping people so you could get away with what you're doing behind the scenes, you fucking piece of shit.
They fired 7 of our union members. 2 of them were shift supervisors.
Wow, firing the union members, union busting, totally legal.
2 partners requested medical and maternity leave.
Oh, you thought you get that? Oh, well, as we know before, you don't have medical leave. You don't have any benefits. No, you're not full-time, no.
Management refused to sign off on their leave, and they were terminated.
And instead, because you asked, get out. You're promoted to customer.
We've said it publicly, we respect the law.
No, they don't.
We respect their right.
Bullshit.
And we want to treat everyone with respect and dignity.
No, you don't. You're just going to say that because that's what looks good.
We kept organizing despite increasing retaliation and surveillance. The company sent higher-up managers to our store, and it felt like it was just to surveil us.
Wow.
And we have a track record that demonstrates the values that we have shown and the value that we have created.
Yeah, that you curated, not created, curated.
In these meetings, partners were being threatened with losing their benefits if they joined the union.
Ridiculous. This is so illegal, it's disgusting. I don't understand. Number one, how a person can do this to another person. It's so disgusting. And number two, how we know this and how it's allowed to go on for as long as it does. I would say the courts need to get to this, but maybe they're backed up with so many cases. But that's because so many things are wrong, including the courts, as we're going to see later on in a future video. In a future TikTok.
Which made them feel intimidated and scared.
It's disgusting. Next.
I want to urge you to boycott Starbucks.
More Starbucks. This is going to be a common theme, it looks like. Way to go, past me.
Today. The National Labor Relations Board has filed over 80 complaints against the company for violating federal labor law, including illegally firing more than a dozen Starbucks workers for exercising their right to form a union.
I'm honestly still surprised in the United States it's a right to form a union, because it certainly doesn't feel like one.
Surveying and punishing,
especially with what Biden did to the railways.
Pro-union employees and promising better benefits at non-union locations.
Partners were being threatened with losing
Hey, look, it's this guy again, Mr. Saxton.
Their benefits if they joined the union, which made them feel intimidated and scared.
To date, none of the 300 Starbucks locations that have made the choice to unionize have even secured a first contract.
And I'll tell you this, the Starbucks location that shut down, that tried to unionize, did not open back up. It's literally free real estate, but that's a different topic because all of New York is kind of getting fucked on the real estate side because everything is expensive. And that's a whole other issue of, New York, the fucking real estate or the property taxes and everything, the rent, it's just so much, almost no one can fucking afford it. So it might be a separate issue. It might not even be related to Starbucks not wanting to open it. It might just be, they don't want to waste the property tax on that place. But who really knows? It could be a whole bunch of things, but, Starbucks could definitely afford it. The sad part is all these corporations with how much profit they make, they can afford to not do things. There's a big difference from not being able to do it to not wanting to do it. For a long time in our history, we weren't able to do things. Now we're able to, we just choose not to. And by choose, you know who's the one making the choice. The people in power, aka the rich.
And Starbucks has taken no meaningful
Look at this guy. Look at how happy he is making his billions.
steps toward negotiating a contract. It is time for all of us to boycott Starbucks.
Not gonna happen. People love their coffee too much. It's sad, but it's true.
Contrary to popular belief.
Oh, this one's sad. Jesus.
Africa is not poor. You don't go to a poor continent to make money. Africa.
Honestly, that's what I always thought too. And this is a common, I think, image people have. They always see Africa as, impoverished, poor, third world. If it's so much like that, why the fuck are not we, but like people making billions off of it?
Africa is in fact the richest continent on the globe. Why haven't African leaders tried to make use
This picture's so funny, by the way.
Their resources, you might ask? They did. And every time they met the same
They
fate.
got killed.
Death. Some under mysterious circumstances, like Magufuli and MKO Abiola, who coincidentally both had a heart attack moments after plans to industrialize Tanzania and Nigeria's gold and oil reserves.
Wow.
U.S. Ambassador Susan Rice served MKO a cup of tea, which many people believe was the cause of his death.
Wow.
Other leaders have been killed directly by the orders of multinational corporations, like...
Bruh, like, I never realized these companies, like Shell, were as powerful as they were. Oil is one of the biggest things, even recently I'm coming to figure out, is a huge fucking thing. Like, oil runs the world almost, because we need oil to function. Without oil, we are just fucked. But yeah, oil definitely runs shit. It's kind of crazy. Let's keep going.
Like Ken Saro-Wiwa being hung by Shell. Or how about the first democratically elected...
A gas company hung this man.
Leader of the Congo, Lumumba, being executed in a coup propped by Belgium and CIA on the orders of Union Minery.
Like, how do we know this? Like, it's so crazy to think without the internet, this would have happened, and we would have just thought, oh yeah, our government's so good. You know, it really is the equalizing factor in that we know they're evil, but most governments are evil. You know, we know the truth. It's just, can we get to the step of doing something about it?
Congo is in fact the richest country on the planet, yet has the #2 poorest citizens.
That is
After they
crazy.
dismembered Lumumba's body, the CIA plant dictator Mobutu took control of Congo for 30 years.
Dismembered
Similar
him.
cases can be found across the entire continent of Africa
God.
and the entire global south. Latin America and Africa are still under hostage from these corporations.
Jesus.
They have killed everyone who's gotten in their way, including but not limited to Dag Hammarskjöld. The UN Secretary General, his plane was shot down in attempts to liberate the Congo from exploitation.
And this is what I'm talking about. Even people in our own government, similar to AOC, there's good people in our government, similar to, oh my God, is his name Jackson? Jeff Jackson? I forgot his name, the guy from North Carolina that I like. These people are good people, but they're so outweighed. They're so against the odds with how many bad people there are. Whenever you get someone good that tries to change it, there's so many bad people that are ready to pounce on them and just cut them, like, apart. It's crazy.
JFK, being close friends with Dag and Lumumba, JFK was furious with Devlin and the CIA for their role in their demise, and planned to scatter the CIA into 1,000 pieces.
And then look what happened.
Later, he was dead under mysterious circumstance. His death has a lot of similarity with a leader from Sweden, Olof Palme. He wanted to continue Dag's legacy and help Africa and Latin America be free from the global elite.
And this is where you need to start getting scared. Where you need to start getting scared is if you mess with the ultra wealthy, and we're going to go over an example of this later on, you need to start fearing for your life because they do not play. They have the resources and the pull and the power to do almost whatever they want and get away with it. Look at Epstein Island. Epstein Island is the main example. Like, the sickness that went on there, we found out who was a part of it, who went there, who did everything. No one got fucked except Epstein and the reporter who found it out and Epstein's wife. Like, it really baffles me how these things are known and nothing changes. I mean, you know, hell, even saying this, I'm a little scared for my life.
Sadly, he met the same fate. When looking at these deaths individually, it may look like coincidence. Yet when you have the full picture, it all makes sense.
That's
a full list of the activists, leaders, journalists, and authors who have been killed can be found on the website, theblackoutstrike.com. Join the strike and help Africa and the global south free themselves from the elite ruling class.
Yeah, I think if you join that strike, you're going to be put on the CIA's list or some shit, or the FBI. But this is where it sounds a little, obviously, clickbaity. It sounds a little, oh God, what is it called? My brain is really tired today, so I'm, like, forgetting words. It sounds a little on the edge, a little fringe, right? A little conspiracy theorist, like, oh, you know, these, you know, on their own don't look like anything, but when you put it all together, it's like, oh, are you a conspiracy theorist? And I swear I've said this before, too. The more I grow up and the more I see this shit with the internet, I mean, already I question what's true and what's not, but, yo, were these conspiracy theorists, like, really that crazy? It's really insane. Next. Oh, this is a funny one. Okay, so I put this in here for some light comedy. It's sad, but it's funny.
dictatorship. You could let one...
Let's count. Let's count how many of these are true. Ready? This is from 2012, where this was already in place, by the way. All the things he's going to say are already in place, but let's count.
1% of the people have all the nation's wealth.
True.
You could help your rich friends get richer by capping their taxes.
True.
And bailing them out when they gamble and lose.
Very true.
You could ignore...
Just like the banks.
...the needs of the poor for healthcare and education.
What did I just mention about my insurance and about education?
Your media would appear free, but would secretly be controlled by one person and his family.
BlackRock.
You could...
Or Stone.
...wiretap phones.
Oh, the restrict bill.
You could torture foreign prisoners.
Or outright just kill them, as we've seen in the previous one.
You could have rigged elections.
I mean, you know, Trump is going to scream to the high heavens about that. We don't know if that's true. I'm scared that one day that will be, or maybe it already is, I don't know. But once that happens, there's no hope. There has to be like a revolution. We need some like guillotine revolution if that ends up happening or is happening already. Because you can't beat that. There's only one way to beat that, and it's bloody.
You could lie about why you go to war.
They've been doing that for forever. Like, that's not even anything new.
You could fill your prisons with one particular racial group. And
oh my god.
No one would complain.
I mean, people complain.
You could use the media to scare the people into supporting policies that are against their interests.
The biggest example of this, and I mentioned him before, is Louis Rossmann. Louis Rossmann shows the commercials that these lobbyists make to make you think right to repair is bad when it's actually in our best benefit. And it's the same thing with unions, too. It's a similar thing they do with unions. It's crazy.
I know this is hard for you Americans to imagine, but please try.
Please try, as if it's not reality. Next.
We're hiring. Nobody wants to work these days.
I love this emoji, by the way.
Minimum wage. Requires 5 years of experience. You are overqualified. You are underqualified.
Yeah, we just don't want you to have the job because you're not enough of a slave.
No health benefits.
Wow.
No PTO.
Wow.
We'll fire you if you get sick.
Yeah, and you'll die anyway because you can't afford anything.
We will take over a month to respond to your application.
That is the biggest bullshit too. And there's something I found out. I don't remember if I put it in the queue of videos, but something I found out that is done is there's applications that companies send out. And I'm not saying I think it's wrong, but I can understand why it's there. It's not necessarily a necessary evil. It's more of like a little scummy, but it makes sense from a pragmatic standpoint. And you know, what it is basically a lot of companies will put out job offers that are just not valid. Like they're not actually offering a job. Like there's no position open, but they think it's a position that often has a lot of turnover. Like for example, my job, right? So they'll put out the thing, they'll get applications. Even though they're not actively hiring, they won't contact anyone. But when the position gets opened up, either by them firing the person or by the person just quitting because it's shit and they can't take any more of it, then they'll have people already, you know, ready, willing, and able on a list to get a job because everyone, you know, takes too long to get back to them. I never understood that, why it took so long. Granted, it does depend on the job. And I've had jobs hit me back pretty quickly after I've contacted them. Usually a couple days, like 3 or something, maybe even 1. But it's not often. Sometimes a lot of jobs will get back to you, and after a month or 2, they'll say, oh yeah, sorry, we decided to hire someone else. Oh, well, thanks for letting me know 2 months after. I'm already employed. Like, fuck you.
Your schedule will never be consistent. We treat everyone like family here.
But don't want to give them raises. Yeah, that alarm sound is perfect. If they say they treat you like family, big red flag. Next. See, when I join a job and the person tells me really how it is from the get-go, they're like, yeah, you know, this job sucks dick, this, and that. That guy is more of a family member to me than the job is.
Everyone needs to know what the world leaders of these 7 countries just agreed on today.
Oh, yeah, this is some crazy-ass shit. So not only is America getting worse, just, you know, for Americans, but I feel like it's getting worse in the world, and here's some proof of that.
Because it is going to affect all of us. You see, there is an organization called OPEC Plus, which is made up of 24 oil-producing countries that, when combined, have a staggering 90% of the world's oil reserves. And last month, oil prices fell towards $70 a barrel, the lowest they've been in over a year. But then today, 7 of the largest members, including Saudi Arabia and Russia, preemptively, even before OPEC's official meeting tomorrow, which is very unusual, decided to do a voluntary production cut of 1.16 million barrels a day. And that's on top of the 2 million barrels a day they cut 6 months ago, bringing the total to 3.66 million barrels of oil a day no longer entering the market. And as of bloody...
So, this is something I just never understood. How the fuck do they produce that many a single day? I honestly question, how much oil is there in the fucking earth? Like, bro, holy shit.
Result, today's headlines read, oil prices surge after the surprise move to cut output. Now, you might think that labeling OPEC a cartel would be sensationalist. But if you look at the strict definition of the word, an association of manufacturers or suppliers with the purpose of maintaining prices at a high level and or restricting competition, they may not be a drug cartel, but by definition, they certainly are an oil cartel. In fact, the Biden administration themselves vowed consequences after their deliberate cuts last year and promised to make efforts to reduce the control OPEC has on the world's energy prices. So next,
you know what's very sad about this? There's a lot of... Actually, let me just let it finish out because we have 5 more seconds.
Next time you're filling up your car with tears in your eyes, you now know exactly why.
Okay. So, I actually really like this guy, Dylan Page. As the comments say, you know, I trust this guy more than the news. I don't know if he's accurate, but he's probably... you know, at least a little bit unbiased more than the news is. And look, we even got Toby Ramasenju right here. It's only a problem when it doesn't benefit America. As this other person likes to say, right? If the U.S. was part of OPEC, they will do a lot worse, right? We'd be doing bad. We're not saints either. But the big thing I want to question here, right? Or the big thing I want to put forward, the idea from all this is, the sad part is that this is going to push the U.S. to do one of two things. And both of them, one of them is good, one of them is bad. We're going to start trying to become more self-sufficient, which in a global economy is very hard to do. You need to be able to work well with others because they can produce more than you can, just geographically. There's more oil over there than there is over here. And even if we were to do something over here, like open the, I believe it was called the Keystone Pipeline, which was closed down because of environmental concerns. Because that's the big overarching problem, is the environment, right? We use oil. It's bad for the environment. We don't care because obviously money and the rich people like money. But if we were to do it in the US, that's only going to further the problem of the environment going to shit, which cannot be fixed after a certain point. So, you know, number one is, okay, become self-sufficient, get oil from our own place, from our own lands, which is going to ruin our lands. Or become energy efficient with solar power, with, you know, renewable resources, renewable energy, solar, wind, you know, hydro, nuclear even, if we want to go that route. But, you know, those things are very hard to do, and we're not at the technological level yet to where that would be, I don't want to say feasible, but, like, it's part technological where, like, we can't do it fully yet. And it's also part, like, just the culture of, again, the rich want to make money, so they're not going to get off oil anytime soon. But those are the main 2 ways we can combat this, and it doesn't look like we're going to do the renewable side, so we might just try and become more self-sufficient, or eventually we might go into a war or kill one of their leaders and put our own shadow leader there like we did for Africa. Who knows? But the US hopefully will figure something out. But a lot of the next videos we're going to see, if I can remember correctly, are going to be relating to the US's little power or its presence in the online stage. So let's see that. Let's go next. Oh, this is a good one. Okay. This has to be, of recent, one of my favorite trends. This one's a 3-minute one, so it's a little long, but... Look at France. Look at France. So, all the president in France is trying to do is raise the retirement age from 62 to 64. And for those of you who live in the United States of America, and those of you who are privy to the news, they're trying to raise the US's retirement to 70. For people like me, the people who are already, like, you know, in retirement or nearing it past a certain cutoff point, they're fine. They're going to retire at, I think, 65. So not only, let me make sure. Let's check this live. What age is retirement? 66. Oh boy. If you were born from 1943 to 1954, the full retirement age is increased gradually. So right now it's 67, right? It's 67 years old. They're trying to raise it 3 years, which is more than France's one in the US, and I don't see people rioting in the streets. Look at what they're doing in France because of this. Look at what they're doing. They're protesting. Look at this shit. They cut power to wealthy suburbs. Free power.
That video
Good.
was in France. The workers and pretty much every fucking body lost their mind over the fact that their
I love this guy's accent,
increase
by the way.
62 to 64, right? And that already sounds like, wow, what a good job them. Here goes where shit gets utterly preposterous. Our retirement age is 67.
Yep,
and goes
we just
up
looked that
every
up.
few years. We don't even know it. I don't even think. And I don't even think we even say anything about it. We never would. We don't say shit about.
So that's one thing he does bring up. A lot of the things I say like are public knowledge, even though they're public knowledge, doesn't mean the public knows it. A lot of people don't even realize a lot of the information's out there. Either A, they don't believe it, or B, they simply don't know. And then C, they do know and they don't care and they don't do anything.
About nothing. This year, $2 trillion is unaccounted for by your government. Your money,
Federal Reserve, thank you.
is unaccounted for. Okay? $2 trillion.
2 trillion, baby.
In the last 5 audits of the Pentagon, they have failed in a row. I wish I was exaggerating.
Like, bro, imagine if that was us, right? Imagine. It's so sad and it's so disgusting how the rules are so unequal. Imagine the IRS audited you and you failed the audit 5 times. You know where you'd be? Do you know where you would be? After the first audit fails, guess what? You got backup withholding. Like, guess what? The IRS ain't playing with you no more. They're forcefully taking more taxes from you. And if you don't do that, you go to prison. So guess how many tries you have with the IRS? You got 1 try. If you fail the first time, you get back taxes withheld, right? You're subject to backup withholding, which I believe the rate for that is like 27%. Which for most people, the regular tax rate is either 12 to 20%, I believe, or 12 to 18 or something. You know, let me be exact. Let me not be stupid. Let me look up the tax brackets. Here, ready? Tax brackets. For most people, it's 10%. Then the next people is 12%. And after that, it's 22%. Those are the tax brackets. For, I would say, the majority of people. 22%. Nothing above that. Backup taxes are 27. Let me make sure of that too. Let's make sure. Backup taxes. Because these are already like withholding amount. This is already a long episode, so let's just make it longer. Fuck it. Oh, it's 24%. My bad. Okay, cool. So it's 24%. So this is more than the majority of people are going to pay taxes for. It's crazy. Oh, fuck. I don't want to spoil that YouTube video.
This shit, but you can look it up to fact check me.
So, bruh, like, how many times can we get away with, failing an audit? Once. How many times can the government do it? 5 times and nothing bad's happening.
5 audits in a row. I didn't say separate audits across numerous years and they passed some of them. I said 5 audits in a row. 5 times in a row. They didn't know where your money, the taxpayer, they don't know where the fuck it is.
They probably blew it up.
$2 trillion. Let's divide it by 300 million Americans and assume they're all working. We're all losing $7 grand.
Wow.
So y'all don't mind somebody walking in your house and taking $7,000 off you. That's not enough for you to go outside.
See, when you say it like that, if someone came to me and stole $7K from me, that guy's getting beaten with my blunt instrument, which might be my cock, or my fists.
That's not enough for you to, organize some shit.
No.
I'm just saying that in France, I don't know if it's because we need to start thinking of this stuff very simply, okay? When a toddler does something wrong, you correct their behavior, they don't do nothing wrong no more.
Skipped there, by the way.
When a toddler does something wrong and you don't do anything, they continue to do wrong. Okay. And I think there's 2 problems here. I think the first problem being that the American people genuinely believe that if they all group together and go outside, nothing will change in the long run.
For now, that's false. It will change for right now. If we all group together currently, we can get something done. But a big fear I have, and I keep repeating it, is I don't know how long that's going to be plausible with technology, with media, with everything changing how it's changing. I honestly do fear that even if we have the numbers, we still might not be able to win. It's very scary.
That belief is false and has been proven false by all these other countries doing something. Okay? So go ahead and get that shit out your heads. If we all organize and go outside and fucking start talking about how our taxes ain't being used right,
and fucking
shit
start talking.
Okay? Number two. We have to stop just talking about it on this app.
Oh my god. Bro, is this guy me from a different dimension with more viewers? Even though, like, you know, I have a lot of viewers. Like, is this guy me?
Okay. We keep talking about it and talking about it. All the shit they're doing to us. We ain't doing nothing about it.
Exactly.
France, do you think they talked about it for years?
No.
The fact that their government was doing it? Or do you think they all walked the fuck outside immediately and did some shit?
You know what's ironic? What's ironic is France, or the French, are actually the first people to grant human rights from what I found out recently. I didn't know that. The French, I believe in the 1700s, or even a little bit before that, were the first people to advocate for universal human rights, I believe. I'm not going to look that up because that's going to lead into a rabbit hole, but I'm pretty sure that's correct.
I'm sorry,
it's crazy.
But if you need to, use my page to be y'all's organizing fucking thing.
Yes.
Do whatever you got to do. But
yes.
I'm dead serious. We need to do something.
Facts.
Okay? Money's being unaccounted for and stolen straight out the American people's pockets.
Bro, this guy knows what's up. This guy knows what the fuck is up. Now, again, I'm not advocating for violence, but I'm also not going to sit here and lie that violence doesn't solve issues. And I'm also not going to lie and say that at a certain point, violence is the only option. I'm not saying that we're at that now, and I'm not saying that's the situation we're leading to, but I'm not saying a lot of things because a lot of reasons. Next.
I owe you an update on the banking.
Yes! Jeff Jackson! Dude, Jeff Jackson and, like, Mr. Chew are so cool.
Situation.
All right, so back to the banking. We're hitting a lot of themes today.
Last time you heard from me about this, it was 2 a.m. and Congress had just met via Zoom we were in the early stages of a bank panic and we could see a domino effect starting. The situation has improved, and here's what we've learned. First, this whole panic started with...
I just want to say, like, this is such a nice setting that I think he's doing this in his home.
Group chat. About 3 weeks ago, a handful of depositors with Silicon Valley Bank saw an announcement that it had just lost a couple $2 billion on some investments, so they started texting each other that they should take all their money out. That spilled onto Twitter, it went viral, and within just a few hours...
And look at the internet. Look at what the internet does. It exposes these fraudulent bank fucks, and it makes the people privy to their bullshit. This is the exact same thing that happened with the AMC and GameStop stock bullshit. And guess what happened there? When that started happening, places like Robinhood and other brokerages, guess what they did? They froze people being able to do stuff because a lot of rich people were losing money. Now, obviously, there's an argument that they've said, like, oh, yeah, you know, that was because we didn't have the assets. You know, it wasn't because we were listening to the rich people, it was for this reason. You know, who really knows if that's the truth or not anymore? We don't know what the truth is nowadays. But, you know, this has happened before.
Whereas depositors at that bank withdrew $42 billion and killed the bank. That much money has never been withdrawn from a bank that fast.
And look how we did it. We did it through collective action through Twitter.
A record. Another $100 billion was set to go out the door the next day.
Bruh, breaking a new record the next day.
But the bank failed before those orders could be executed.
Wow.
It was the world's first social media-driven bank run.
Let's go! Let's go! You know, I do feel bad a little bit for the people that got fucked by this, but the people that got fucked by this were the people doing wrong shit in the first place. So, while I feel bad for them, you know, they're suffering, I mean, I don't think... it's hard to say because now we're going to get into morals and I don't, you know, this video is already going on for a while. I don't want to get into morality too much, but I don't like suffering of any kind. Some suffering might be deserved, but even then I don't really enjoy it unless it has something to do specifically with me. But still, suffering just for the sake of suffering is not good. Like, all suffering should not just... A lot of suffering should not happen. Suffering is just bad. That's it.
The combination of digital banking, which makes withdrawals easy, and social media, which spreads fear quickly, means that money can now
and truth, don't forget, and truth,
flow out of banks much faster than confidence can be restored. And that's the whole challenge.
That's also true.
Second, after we saw 2 banks fail, the next domino to fall was going to be a regional bank called First Republic. But it hasn't failed, and here's why. Since all this began, what you've seen is people withdrawing money from regional banks and moving it to big banks. In the last few weeks, those big banks have taken in hundreds of billions of dollars in new deposits.
And I hope their stocks are going up because I have some of them.
So what we asked these big banks to do was to take some of the money they've just received and transfer it back into this regional bank that was in a lot of trouble. The idea was to change that bank from a domino into a firewall. That was over 2 weeks ago, and it may have worked.
But at what cost?
First Republic stands. Third, the first of many congressional hearings on these.
See, it makes me question, what did they tell the big banks they were going to do for them for this? Because I don't think the big banks would just give away money they can actively use to get richer unless there was something in it for them. So it makes you think, what's happening behind the scenes?
Bank runs was held last week, and it is already clear that the run-up to all of this involved failure on multiple levels. Yes. Executives of Silicon Valley Bank made bad investments and then sold millions of dollars worth of their own stock just days before telling everyone else that they had lost a bunch of money. Federal regulators didn't step in soon enough, despite clear signs that they should. Congress rolled back.
Wow, our government failing us again. Wow.
Back regulations on banks like the ones that are in trouble right now.
And guess who did that, as we saw in a previous episode? Silicon Valley Bank literally lobbied for that and got the regulations lifted.
About 5 years ago, which allowed them to take more risk with less scrutiny. And, of course, some depositors with Silicon Valley Bank worked themselves up into such a frenzy that they started a bank run that took out their own bank and then spread.
See, this is where I don't necessarily agree. Even though I love Jeff Jackson, I don't know how much I agree with that last part right there. Where, you know, they got themselves into a tizzy and they caused this. They didn't cause this, right? If you go to a bank, and I understand this is the system for how it is, you know, I'm fully aware of that. I'm just saying it's not a good system. I know it's the system for how it is. I know that's how we operate. I'm just saying that's not how we should operate. Now, do I have a solution for how we should? No. So I can't really talk too much with confidence on this platform. But, on this platform I've set myself up on. But all I can say is just because I don't know what the right answer is doesn't mean I can't recognize the wrong one. And the way the system is now, if I go to the bank, if everyone goes to the bank and can't, take out their money that they have put in the bank, there's something wrong with the way things are being done. If the bank has to operate on this weird system of, we're only going to hold a fraction of what we actually have and the rest of it we're going to use to make money, maybe that shouldn't be done.
Bottom line is that no one's declaring victory, but the situation is much better than it was 2 weeks ago. I'll keep you posted.
Thank you, Jeff Jackson. Next, also, I like how one of the commenters, this male test subject 1, and you know what he says too? This actually hits home. The worst thing about your TikTok channel is that it reminds us how strange it is to hear back from our elected representatives. And this guy's not even my elected representative. Mine is AOC, as we saw before.
The U.S. government has officially lost its mind. Philip DeFranco
let's see this shit.
Recently pointed out that
Senator Rand Paul actually just made a really good point.
Every accusation
look, it's
of
this
data
guy
gathering
again.
that's been attributed to TikTok could also be...
I'm not gonna lie, this guy has some swagger in his look. Again, I don't know why people hate him, but he looks like he got some swag.
Be attributed to domestic big tech.
And crazily enough, it's not just Rand Paul who's starting to make sense. On the other side, we've got AOC saying this.
And again, like I said, AOC is a little controversial too. Rand Paul and AOC, I've heard those names as people don't like them.
It just doesn't feel right.
Now, whether it's Rand Paul or AOC, they're all alluding to something that they're not saying out in the open, so I'll do it for them.
And the craziest part is AOC is young compared to Rand Paul, or at least, they look young, right? Or, AOC looks young compared to Rand Paul. I don't know their actual ages, but it's crazy to think that, like, on different sides of the spectrum, they're agreeing with it. And again, I always question, are they really agreeing with it, or are they doing it to save face? I don't know. But let's make assumptions out of the way. Let's just go with what they're saying and assume it's true. It's crazy that, an old person and a young person are agreeing on this.
What the TikTok ban and the Restrict Act is actually about is most simply illustrated by some...
So again, a lot of stuff I've already said and we've already seen, just reiterated, just to really drive the points home. I like to send myself a lot of videos saying the same thing just to drive points home.
Something going on in social media right now, today.
Today.
If you search France on
Oh, this is insane, by the way. This is actually insane.
Instagram, this is what comes up. But on TikTok, if you search France, this is what you'll find.
Look, people rioting and shit. So let me actually test this right now. I'm going to test this right now live. All right, I'm on Instagram. Let me see. Let me take a quick look. I don't know how to really use Instagram, but let me see. Search France. Okay, I'm searching France. Oh, wow, look at that. It's all nice things. It's all great, amazing things. All very pretty pictures of the people, of the land. I see nothing bad. I see nothing bad here. Okay. Yep, this looks similar to what he showed. Let me actually see. Yeah, so he went in the top category. I'm in the top category as well. Let me search on TikTok. Let me try this. Now, I use TikTok a lot, so I can definitely navigate it. Here, let me see. Let's search France on TikTok. I wish I could show it. Oh my god, everything is on fire. I see people rioting. I see a guy getting hosed. I see people dancing around the fire, marching in the street. I see some people giving out free food. How nice. I see a reporter in front of trash in the street. French retirement explained. Protests outside BlackRock. Outside BlackRock main headquarters, which we're going to go over. It's crazy. It's showing all the bad shit. And ironically enough, Auntie just shared a video with me. It's showing all the bad shit. This is 100% true. I can confirm this. Dude, the media is hiding it. As if I'm surprised. I say that as if I'm surprised.
France, this is what you'll find. The TikTok ban and the whole concept of the Restrict Act isn't about anything but control. Because people are actually communicating on this app in real time, globally. If you don't...
Because that's what the internet does, the great equalizer.
Believe me, try the France search bar thing on your Instagram
and
then on TikTok.
I just
look
did.
At the difference yourself.
Holy
all
shit.
Of this sounds like it's from a George Orwell novel, but the
And that's what I always say too. And I'm always going to repeat myself. Like, bruh, I used to think things like this were crazy. They weren't real, but it's real.
Reality is this is 2023 in the United States of America that's supposed to be the land of the free.
It's not so
free. Freedom of speech and access to information is supposed to be unrestricted. Because the irony here is if it wasn't for this Chinese app, TikTok, we wouldn't know what was going on in the world.
That's actually so crazy to me. Like, that is the biggest just slap in the face of, we accuse China of doing all these things, but the Chinese app is giving us more freedom than our current, more freedom of information than our current apps that we own in the United States. It's actually wild and disgusting. Powder keg, man, I'm telling you.
Because this isn't covered anywhere else. And it's
except
because
TikTok.
Western
It's
superpowers
crazy.
And tech companies that they are in bed with don't want
and
us
they love
to know
fucking each other.
that the rest of the world is just as unhappy with their leadership as we are. They don't want us to realize globally that we're not as...
Listen, if my channel was not shadow banned before, it's definitely shadow banned now that I'm showing this shit. I bet you, like, if I had an audience, which I do, I have thousands of viewers, but if I had a bigger audience, these people would blacklist me. I'd be put on a ton of lists because I'm saying things that, you know, they don't like being said. I'm starting to sound like freaking, what's his face? The guy who says the frogs are going to turn gay. Forgot his name. I can't believe it. Kevin... I was going to say McCarthy, but it's not McCarthy. Not... Fuck, I forgot his name, but everyone knows who he is.
As different as we think we are. They don't want the cat to get out of the bag,
but too
governments
late.
Globally have no idea what they are doing, and they're trying to combat
well,
that.
Well, they definitely
by
know what they're doing.
Their grip of control even tighter across the world.
They don't know fully what they're doing, but they definitely know what they're doing.
Although the United States of America is the last place that you would expect some sort of totalitarian grasp for power and control of the media, it's happening before our very eyes.
See, and the sad part is it's not happening before our very eyes. It's been happening. This is not something that's new, and this is the sad part of the United States wants you to think it's one way, when in reality it's not, which is why I question the politicians. They want you to think possibly that they're for the people, that they're for these good ideas, but realistically, are they? You never know.
But keep that in mind the next time you hear somebody trying to convince you that TikTok is actually the problem here.
It's part of the problem. It's definitely not exempt for the problem, and that's mostly because of China, not because of TikTok. You can't blame TikTok for Chinese crazy law of, hey, you can give us whatever we ask for whenever we want and you can't say anything. How are you going to blame TikTok for that? TikTok has to listen to them. Now, granted, they should have done this sooner. They should have moved to, and did Project Texas, moving all the data to US sooner. True. But, what can you really do? Obviously, they probably have their own interests as well. But pretty good video. Next, thank you, Christopher Claffin. Next.
Hello. I am definitely not wearing.
Okay, we're getting near the end now. Now I remember these, but this is cool. I really like this guy. This is more lighthearted comedy, even though it's saying depressing ass shit. But this is basically me in an alternate universe that had viewers.
Anything around my
even though I have thousands of viewers.
And stuff has happened. So what's up? Donald Trump, who once bragged about having fewer tall buildings to compete with after 9/11.
That's fucked. And I honestly think this guy does check his sources, so that's really fucked up.
Has been arrested. He flew to New York where he walked into a place and they arrested him and charged him with 34 counts of falsifying business documents.
Fun fact, this was near me, and I saw the police and everything.
The arrest was covered by virtually every camera on planet Earth, and that's too much. Anyway, he pled not guilty and then went home. So.
Yeah, so the whole thing lasted, I think less than an hour. And it was really a big show of nothing. It honestly was. And bro, Trump is not going to jail. Honestly. I think the things they're trying to get him on are nothing too. They're not nothing, but it's nothing that he can't deal with.
So, if we're gonna be in the politics space talking about dumb bullshit, let's talk about some far more dumb bullshit going on in Tennessee. Here's what happened. One, a bunch of gun violence happened in Tennessee.
Yes, a big problem in the U.S. that increasingly gets talked about, but nothing gets changed about it. Why? Because of lobbyists.
Two, a bunch of students went to the state house and protested for better gun control.
Good on the students. Good for them.
Three, some Democrats stood with those students.
Good for the Democrats. Now look what that ended out happening to, or look what that leads to.
Four, Republicans called that an insurrection. And five, Republicans are now trying to force those Democrats out of the state house.
What the fuck? You can't even make this shit up, man. If nothing else, everything burning is at least interesting. I mean, I'm suffering. I can't sleep. I have stress. I'm not having a great time. But, bruh, at least this shit's funny to see, because it just sounds so asinine. Eventually, you're just wow, is this really happening? What the hell is this?
Because the right thing to do when a bunch of literal children come to you from your state asking you for help is to kick their representatives out of the vote. Very cool and healthy democracy we have here.
Oh, isn't it so healthy?
If you own a Nintendo Switch, you probably are aware of Joy-Con.
Alright, this is not related to the Dark Dimension, but fuck it.
The controllers that come attached to the Switch.
We're gonna watch the whole thing because I like this guy.
That can be detached and whatnot. Joy-Cons infamously have a horrible drift problem.
Okay, that's a part of the Dark Dimension. The fact that Nintendo had this drift problem for however long, fuck you, Nintendo. Dark Dimension bullshit.
And they've been, in lawsuits over this before, and they've been repairing them and whatnot, but the EU Commission reached out to Nintendo and was like, hey, you gotta make good on this, for realsies, though.
And guess what? When the EU Commission says it, they're gonna do it. Why? Because if they don't do it, then the EU Commission is gonna ban them and they lose out on revenue.
In response, Nintendo is now saying that they will repair Joy-Cons free of charge forever.
Oh my god, we actually got a win! Holy shit! The Dark Dimension isn't so dark. There's a ray of light. A modicum of light.
This is really cool, but also Nintendo, swore up and down for a long time that this wasn't a real issue.
And you know what? Even though they swore up and down, I don't care. I mean, obviously I care. Obviously it's stupid that they did that. But at the end of the day, they could do whatever they want as long as now they're fixing it for free. Obviously, I'm going to take into account how long it took to do it and, what they said in terms of it actually happening or not. But listen, at the end of the day, if you don't want to face it, but you're still going to do the right thing, I'd rather that than you just lie about it and never do it at all. That's what our government needs to do. Listen, if you guys don't want to say you're corrupt and you guys don't want to, out yourselves, right? But you want to start doing the right thing, don't say anything, just do the right thing. Because at this point, that's all we really want.
We did science. Are you aware of the double slit experiment?
Okay, this shit sounds crazy. I didn't even understand this one. This one's just interesting.
The experiment with like quantum physics where you like shine a light through two parallel slits and we can prove that light is both particles and waves.
I'm also confused why the fuck this guy has the crowbar. I mean, there's a mic attached to it, but like, why the crowbar?
Not, bear with me. So we did that experiment, but apparently like with time. Basically, some scientists led by a PhD student named Romain Tirol. Sorry if I butchered that. You're really smart. Anyway, they used a
Dude, I love this guy.
Material, and this metamaterial is able to be manipulated at ridiculous speed.
What does that even mean, metamaterial? When I think of meta, I think of the Zuck.
And so
lobbying.
They manipulated this material and then shined light at it and measured refractions from it and basically got like a similar pattern with the spatial wave stuff, but with time. I don't know what this means.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But it's really cool. Rapid fire. After an election last night, the Wisconsin Supreme Court now is going to have a leftish, in air quotes, leaning majority, and that might mean that they're not going to have abortion bans and
yay
and horrible gerrymandering anymore.
Yeah, but I doubt it, but yay.
Finland joined NATO.
That's huge. That is huge. Finland joining NATO is actually huge because one of the biggest reasons why Russia is causing its big stir with Ukraine and stuff is they do not want Ukraine joining NATO. And what does Ukraine want to do? They want to join NATO.
The creator of Settlers of Catan has unfortunately passed away, so go get resources. And finally for today, the former chief of staff of former Maryland Governor Larry Hogan is dead after going on the run from the FBI for a fraud investigation.
Wow. Interesting. Okay, cool. A lot of information there, not a lot of it relating to the dark dimension, some even shining rays of light into it. Next.
Breaking news! Johnson & Johnson have agreed to a settlement of $8.9 billion to 7...
Jesus Christ, $8.9 billion. You know what's crazy? Let's see Johnson & Johnson's revenue. Johnson and John... I misspelled that so badly. Johnson revenue. Let's see. Of course, it's not going to come up easily, is it? Oh, here we go. 23 billion. So they're going to pay out a little over a third, which is a lot, but again, they're not really struggling with that.
70,000 customers.
Because remember, revenue is extra, I believe. It's after expenses.
Who reported their baby powder caused cancer. Plaintiffs claim that
this is sad and disgusting.
Talc in the powder was contaminated with asbestos. The settlement would require the company to file for bankruptcy and be approved. Follow for more breaking news.
Okay. So aside from this like sounding like shit, which I apologize for, yeah, this is crazy because Johnson & Johnson owns a lot of things. They own a lot of things. And I believe my grandparents are going to bed, so I might have to say goodnight to them soon. I didn't think this video was going to go as long as it did, but you know what? Fuck it. We're doing an extra long episode today just because I want to get caught up with all the TikToks. Just in case TikTok, the website, decides to fuck with me again, but it shouldn't. But anyway, yeah, I like how this guy, Jay Vaz, says, bro, it's always Johnson & Johnson. But yeah, it's crazy because I used to use this baby powder, but I don't have cancer yet, so maybe it's after my, or maybe it was before my time. Next.
It has just been revealed that a U.S. nuclear...
Oh, and look at this. So at a certain point, right, if I'm going to continue to do this series and if TikTok doesn't get banned, it's going to get to the point where I'm just going to keep saying the same things, but I'm just going to be an aggregate showing you guys more and more examples, trying to convince you of how much the world sucks, how much we're in this dark dimension, and hopefully you can adopt my mindset of, wow, this is crazy. I'm just going to eventually keep saying the same things of, wow, the government's corrupt, wow, they're greedy, wow, you know, same shit. I'm just going to keep saying the same shit.
Leaked a staggering
just show more examples.
400,000 gallons of radioactive water 4 months ago. And they only told the public yesterday. As you'd expect, this was met with a furious reaction as the day the leak was detected in November last year. Xcel Energy informed the state of Minneapolis and federal authorities. But all three chose to not inform the public because they say it didn't pose an immediate health risk to the environment or the public. The leaked water
Yeah, right. My fucking ass.
is said to contain radioactive tritium. However,
and by the way, I just want to point out the comment here by the Flash. They said Chernobyl wasn't a threat either at first. Now look how that turned out. Bruh. Look, the guy over here, Ron, too. He also says the same thing. Reminds me of how Chernobyl didn't also tell the public.
They are assuring the public that it has not contaminated the drinking water or the river. They also stated that the cleanup is...
Like, with all the things I'm showing you, right? And you know, obviously, I've seen more than just what I'm showing on TikTok, because I've seen this for years. Oh, here we go. Okay. Well, like I said, there's the good night. You know, with all the stuff I'm showing, just from TikTok alone, and all the stuff I know outside of TikTok, how the fuck can you trust your government at this point? How can you trust anyone? Like, it's horrible, dude. This is really the dark dimension. You can't trust anyone.
It's still happening and have recovered about 25% of the spilled tritium so far. But the question is, should
after 4 months,
the public have been informed about this
yes.
or not? It has just been revealed that...
Now, see, this is the, I'll give them the silver lining here. I'm no, you know, nuclear physicist, right? I don't really know about this stuff, but that's the whole point I'm trying to make. A lot of people don't know. So the only sort of, and this is where we have to have trust here, and it's very hard to do, but the only sort of silver lining here is maybe tritium is not dangerous. But when we hear it, we think, oh, nuclear material, it's always dangerous. But maybe it's not, because that's the reality of tritium. We don't know. I don't know personally, right? But let's just say, for argument's sake, it's not dangerous to us. People are going to hear that there's a tritium leak, right? And it's not dangerous. People are not going to listen to that. They're going to think it is dangerous. They're going to think the government's lying to them. And they're going to go into a panic. They're going to move away. The economy in that area is going to crash. A lot of things are going to go bad for a lot of people when they didn't need to, if the information was hidden. So is it ethical to hide information? It depends on what the truth actually is. Nah. All right, cool. All the good nights are done. But anyway, it depends on the truth of the information. Now, if the information is actually true, then it makes sense. But again, they've lost the benefit of the doubt, and that's kind of where we're at, and that's the unfortunate part. Whether they were right to keep it from us or wrong, we'll always think they're in the wrong. So they can almost never do right because of the whole set of the larger society. It's really sad. Next.
So breaking news out of France right now. The French...
Oh, this is the good one. This is the good one. This is the one that's personally very scary too.
Have stormed the BlackRock headquarters.
Okay, hands up who still thinks this is about retirement reform.
I still think it is. I just think people are going crazy. Because it's the same thing that happened in the United States, right? In the United States, when a lot of black individuals were being killed unjustly by the cops, there was a lot of riots, right? There's a lot of bad things happening. Now, those riots, you know, if a cop killed a black person, how does that equate to local mom and pop shops getting raided, getting robbed, and getting fucked with, right? Local business owners suffering, black business owners suffering. How did it equate to that? One, because these people don't care and they just want to cause violence. Because once people start going animal, we are animals at the end of the day, and we're going to behave like them. So people are just going to go buck wild, crazy, nasty on everyone. It's going to be like the fucking purge. And number two, that's the only way to really force changes is, you know, it's to target anyone. Because eventually those people are going to either side with you or side against you. And if they side with you, they're going to go to the higher power, which is the government, and be like, fix this. So you're just increasing your numbers.
Or the reason the corporate media are underreporting it or straight up just misrepresenting it is because protesting in France is nothing new. I mean, after all, I don't live in France.
Ah, yes, those are probably Americans.
Who cares about France? I don't.
I hope those are like fake, implanted by like social media, or not social media, like the news stations and stuff, the elite.
They're targeting BlackRock.
Look at how much BlackRock owns. Netflix, Tesla, Chevron, Amazon. How does BlackRock own Amazon? It doesn't make sense. Oh, actually, I know why. I think it's because of stock. I think they own stock in it.
The media are not reporting on that because the media are BlackRock. Now, if you're unfamiliar and you want a quick crash course on...
This guy looks like a discount Elon Musk, by the way. It has no relevance to anything being said, but I just wanted to put it out there.
BlackRock, you can go and watch this video that's pinned on my profile page, and it will bring you up to speed. This may have been sparked by an undemocratically forced retirement reform, but the fact that they've ended up on BlackRock's door should signal one thing very clearly.
That BlackRock might have been nearby and might have been collateral damage.
The economy is global.
That too.
We are all subservient to the same corporate global elite. And in their eyes,
as much as the internet helps disseminate ideas, it also helps the rich strengthen themselves globally too. It helps us, it damn well helps them.
There are no French people or English people or American
We're
people,
all just people
or South African people. There are only the ruling elite and everybody else.
That's very true.
The reason they keep events like this, which are popping up all over the world, by the way, as quiet as they can.
And that's the sad reality of things. We're just looking at France and seeing it from France because that's what's viral right now. These are all over the place. It really is true, and it's sad how much we don't know.
Make them look as separate as they can is because they are terrified.
It's so sad that the more I grow up, the more I realize how much more shittier the world is than I ever thought was possible.
That we are going to start seeing ourselves the way they see us, as one. I think it's about time we start validating some of that power.
The powder keg is growing.
Paranoia. Now I'm gonna let the French play me out here because they've earned it.
Yeah, dude, good for the French, man. Look at them. Wave your flags, man. Get your rights. Get your retirement age down because we have technology. Don't let these lurch people fucking milk you. Anyway, that was pretty good. But it does bring up a scary thing because as we saw before with Shell and, you know, what they did in Africa, when you mess with the rich people, it's scary because they will get you. Now, granted, we haven't seen them been able to get all of us, right? We haven't been able to see them get, like, the majority of us. But, you know, even the fucking president is not safe from what we've seen. Even JFK wasn't safe, allegedly. Now, that's obviously conspiracy theory. Don't look too much into that. Or don't take me at my word for that. But, you know, it's a little crazy. Next.
Did you know that
Ooh, howdy.
are panic breeding white babies?
Okay. I honestly sent myself this one just because, listen to the intro. The intro is like, if you were in school and this is how you started your essay and I was a teacher, I would give you 100. You instantly hooked me.
Did you know that the Silicon Valley elite are panic breeding white babies? Hi, my
White
name is
babies.
Rachel Donald. I'm a climate corruption journalist and the creator of Planet Critical. So let's talk about how elites like Elon Musk are saying that population collapse is a bigger catastrophe and threat than climate change.
So, I'm trying to think if Elon is right. I personally think that population isn't as big a deal as climate change because climate change for right now is reversible. Eventually it isn't. We could solve population eventually, right? It might dip, which might lead to the biggest thing that the rich people are scared of, them making less money and society slowing down a little bit. Which, you know, obviously we don't want society to slow down in terms of like production, in terms of technological advancement, in terms of stuff like that. But as we've seen, the technological advancement, what is that really advancing? We still have to work, you know, 2 jobs to even stay afloat, right? So, what is it really advancing? But in general, I personally think that's bullshit. I think Elon Musk is kind of lying here. I think population is not going to collapse. It's going to slow down. Things are going to go slower because there's too many old people and not enough young people to replace them, sure. But it's not like it's going to go from like 100 to 0. Like, okay, now society's done. We have the purge. No, things are just going to slow down and the economy is going to slow down.
Population growth is either stagnating or on the decline in many developed countries around the world. In these
Yes.
countries, you've also got populations that tend to live longer.
Yes.
Put those two things together and you've got an economy that needs to provide for its elderly population whilst there aren't enough laborers being born to fulfill its needs.
But there's enough wealth to take care of everyone if it was distributed the right way.
One quick and easy solution, of course, would be to accept any one of the numerous refugees fleeing their countries. But the philosophy
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's also a solution, yes.
of elites is, well, we don't want those kinds of people being brought into our economies. That's why there's this new trend in Silicon Valley elites to get together and produce as many white, upper middle class babies as they can.
And the fucking article that shows this is disgusting. Can super babies save the world? And then they show a white couple. Like, come on. It's obviously... And, you know, I'm a white person. You know, people know this if they watch me. Even I'm saying, like, it's kind of obvious.
This is called long-term thinking, allegedly.
Allegedly.
And it's all down to effective altruism.
You're going to see, because now we're getting into the TikToks that I remember. I sent this to myself recently. You're going to see how disgusting they, like, think of this and how they justify it, what they're doing.
Effective altruism is the philosophy that Sam Bankman-Fried subscribed to. You know, the crypto guy who crashed the market.
Oh, lovely. The guy we should all trust because he was touted as the world's nicest billionaire, as if that was true. There's certain things that I'm told in life, right, where I could just tell it's just a load of bullshit. A long time ago, when I was a wee lad, people told me, oh, weed's not bad for you. There's no negative effects. No negative effects from smoking weed. Well, guess what? Now we're seeing negative effects. What was the next thing? Vaping. Oh my god, vaping, it's so good for you. The people who are hating on it saying it's bad, they're just losers. Vaping's good. There's nothing wrong with vaping. Oh, who told you that? The people who produce the vapes? No fucking duh, they're going to tell you that. And now people are saying, and you know, like I've said, right? If you're at the top, you're doing something shady, I'm assuming, or you're evil in some way. Granted, the level can definitely be different, but if you're in the billions, I very much question. You have to have something bad on you. And Sam Bankman-Fried was the exception to this. I saw all over the place, this guy's so nice. He did crypto, you know, he's a self-made billionaire, good for him. And now look. He's a sham. He's going to jail. His girlfriend didn't even know how to do complex math.
Anyway, it was created by a British philosopher called Will MacAskill, and the initial idea was very interesting. It was all about how to use your money effectively, but it quickly morphed into something else. Part of MacAskill's long-termism is saying that in the future there will be trillions and trillions of unborn humans after we have colonized every other possible planet in the universe.
That's true, if we last that long.
Future. However, because the unborn trillions massively...
You know what this sounds like? It sounds like a new rat race. Oh, we owe the trillions of people that weren't born yet a future? That sounds like that justification can be used ad per infinitum. It can be used forever. You know why? Because this is the whole thing of what technology was supposed to do. Technology was supposed to improve, and then in the future we would work less. But what has it done? It's improved, but we're expected to work even more now.
We outnumber the 8 billion alive today. It means that these Silicon Valley elites can continue to justify ripping minerals and materials out of the Earth's crust and ignoring the suffering of the very many people who exist today, because they are working on the technology and the innovation and the infrastructure that will secure the future for the trillions of unborn humans. They are saving the world. Just not this one.
Not this one, not for
Simone
us.
and Malcolm Collins are both ex-Silicon Valley types, and they've created pronatalist.org.
Oh,
where
yes.
they're encouraging people of their class and their ilk to have more
Rich white people.
They've even created a matchmaking website where rich white people who want to have a load of children can meet other rich white people who want to have a load.
And this goes into what I was saying before about like the whole video we saw in the very beginning about men. The modern dating scene isn't optimized for long-term healthy relationships. Isn't that true?
Of children. Simone and Malcolm Collins are trying to have 10 children, and they plan on indoctrinating each of those 10 to have another 10. And they hope to represent about 10% of the United States population in the next 100 years.
What
they have
the
openly said
hell?
that it's better to invest in the education of the 0.1% than the lower 50%. So they firmly believe that only people like them can save the world, and that's why they have to have lots of babies. Their whole thought process completely lacks any class or structuralist.
This is where we might get to a point in society that's very scary, and I'm very scared of. It's the position where the rich no longer want or need us. They can be self-sufficient. They have enough resources. They have enough money, as long as money is still a thing. And they could say, okay, we've milked them for enough. Get rid of them. They're a nuisance. They're not in our bubble. We're us. They're them. Get them out of here. At that point, when the rich don't want us, it's very bad. Now, granted, we outnumber them a lot, so I don't know if that's even possible, but I'm very scared for, you know, because right now the rich need us. They need us to make money. But once that ends, if it ever will, and I doubt it will because human greed, but if that ever ends, that is a scary thought. And that's the thought I really hope we don't ever see come to reality, is when the rich don't care about us anymore. Because they do care to an extent. They want us to be healthy enough or gullible enough to keep giving them money.
Critique about how and why privilege allows access to certain spaces and allows certain people to become more influential than others. It also completely abdicates responsibility for the billions around the world who are living in abject poverty.
How are they going to make things better for the trillions of people in the future if they can't make things better for the billions of people now?
Thanks to the consumption of the elites in the West. And this is why I think the elite are panic breeding white babies. In order to maintain our very luxurious lifestyles in the global north, we need the minerals and the materials from the global south, and we need the political precarity that cheap labor provides in order to maintain our cultural dominance. In other words, we wouldn't get to live in the way that we do if there weren't children suffering in the world. And rather than equitably distributing resources, these people would rather maintain their dominance at the expense of the majority.
And that's the whole story of the rich right there summed up.
These people aren't trying to save the planet. They're trying to save their own skin. Go to planetcritical.com to learn more and subscribe.
Okay, thank you very much, Planet Critical. But, yeah, she's basically very right with a lot of what she's saying. Next!
Fun fact, onions are the only agricultural product in the U.S.
This is more funny. I found this one funny, but this one's still disgusting.
That it's illegal to trade futures on, and that's because of a
So future trading, I'll describe it a little bit. It's basically some of the ways that they were like doing shady shit to the GameStop stock and making money. And when people find out, they can fuck with it. This is exactly what happened.
Vince Kasuga. Vince Kasuga was an onion farmer from New York, but he wanted to be the onion king.
And of course, he came from New York, the greediest place in the world.
He partnered with futures trader Sam Siegel, and they bought as many onion future contracts as they could. By the winter of 1955, Vince and Sam owned 98% of the available onions in the U.S.
Call that a monopoly.
And since they owned all the onions, Vince and Sam could now set the price, and they raised the price of a bag of onions to $2.75, at the same time taking out short positions.
You know what's sad? Today, a bag of onions for me is $3.
On onion futures. In March of 1956, Vince and Sam flooded the market with onions. There was a never-ending flow of onions into the marketplace, which drove the price of a bag of onions down to 10 cents.
Jesus.
This wiped out traders with long positions on onion futures, who were now stuck with hundreds of pounds of worthless onions. But the scheme made Vince and Sam $8.5 million, around $90 million in today's money.
Jesus Christ.
This caused many onion farmers to go bankrupt, and many people complained to Congress. In 1958, the Onion Futures Act was signed.
Bro, they literally signed a thing into law because of onions. Think about that.
Into law, which banned futures trading on onions, and still to this day makes it hard for onion farmers to plan their crops and accurately lock in prices.
Great, so they fuck things for the future too. Dude, it's crazy how just like economics works. The more I research about the stock market, the more I just think like it's really just people betting. It's really people betting and agreeing, hey, I'll give you money if this happens. Or it's a lot of like make-believe, like, oh, we hope this is happening, or like we all agree to operate by a certain subset of rules of beliefs, right? I mean, granted, you could boil down a lot of things to that, but I don't know. The stock market is like, wow, you're really making billions off just like guessing, betting, and doing nonsense. It's wild. Next.
Every time you hear the tech titans blather on about
you're all good. I mean, you know, from the previous episodes, you guys know I love Adam.
About the dangers of AI, they're always talking about the science fiction version, where an AI becomes conscious and takes over the world. But all that fear-mongering is just more marketing. That spooky science fiction story is designed to grab headlines and distract us from the real danger of AI, which...
Now, I said this before with a lot of other people. Adam is usually a person who shows a lot of his sources. So I haven't vetted all of them, because once you prove a certain point that a lot of the stuff you're showing is true, people just kind of take that implicitly and go forward with it, saying, okay, he must always be telling the truth. It's not something that's good to do, because then people kind of get lofty ideas, or they can like sit on their laurels, and then they could start lying and people can still believe they're true. But I believe Adam here, because I still think he consistently shows his sources. But this post specifically is a little bit of fear-mongering. It's a little bit out there.
Which is that the real-life humans in Silicon Valley are using it to fuck us all over right now.
No!
Because here's the brutal truth.
Oh, let's hear this brutal truth, Adam.
Even the name of this technology is a lie.
No way.
If you so much as scratch any one of these so-called artificial intelligences, you will find underpaid, exploited, ripped off humans making the system work. A Time magazine investigation recently found that to keep all the internet filth and sludge out of ChatGPT and DALL-E,
yo, DALL-E is cool, man.
OpenAI makes Kenyan workers sift through toxic content.
See, this is where it's so sad, because again, it always goes back to Africa, it always goes back to Asia, sometimes even South America, right? Go get cheap labor from there to have people do the jobs no one else wants to do because you could pay them next to nothing. And because there's a lot less regulation and laws, and because most people don't care to change it, right? For a long time, we've been hearing, you know, for example, with Hershey's making child labor with chocolate, you know, from now they're doing this with Kenya, from what Shell does in Kenya, like all this stuff, or sorry, not in Kenya, in Africa. All this stuff happens just from Africa alone, right? If we focus on Africa, all this stuff happens but it doesn't seem to change, and it keeps happening. Why? Because number one, it's so far away. Number two, most people don't care. And number three, it's well hidden.
Identifying which fragments are too violent, sexually explicit, or disturbing to be used in the training data.
You know what's ironic? There was people in the States that used to do that, and there probably still is jobs that do that, but they outsourced a lot of them because it was affecting people in the States really badly mentally. And, you know, what does that tell you? Okay, it's affecting our people mentally, so instead of getting rid of it, let's just outsource it to a poor, you know, not even poor country, because Africa's rich, as we saw before. Let's just outsource it to the impoverished people.
They are paid under $2 an hour.
Now, see, this is a little, not... What is the word? See, my brain isn't working again. Fuck. This is a little, disingenuous. Because obviously they're going to be paid less, but what is the cost of living there? I mean, I'm pretty sure it's not... It's above $2, but, you know, what is the cost of living? Because other states have different minimum wages than New York. I mean, New York's already is low enough, right? It's $15, which to some states sounds like a lot, but in New York, it's not a lot. It's almost nothing. But other states, their minimum wages are like $8-something, $9. So to them, $15, they're like, wow, that's almost like a double. Holy shit. Like, you know, how can you guys not live off this? It's because our cost of living is way higher.
$2! I mean, why should I be worried about AI taking over when the humans who are currently in charge are doing this shit? Even the Terminator would be like,
wow, that is fucked up.
Okay, some lighthearted comedy. But, yeah, they're definitely right. We don't need AI to fuck things up. Humans are doing a good enough job already. And hopefully I'm showing that. And hopefully that will lead to change, but I doubt it. But hopefully we could have fun watching it.
Plastic pollution can now be found.
Oh, this is a big thing just health-wise that's, like, scary because there's a lot of microplastics in almost everything now because we keep using plastic and we don't properly recycle. Thank you, environment. This is where I think, you know, the environment stuff, even if we, like, start producing babies and stuff, right, as the white elite want us to, if we don't fix the environment, look what's going to happen.
Found in the mother's womb. But how could this plastic affect the embryo? Scientists discovered that tiny plastics, called nanoplastics, can
So we've gone past microplastics, because that was the big buzzword for a little bit. Microplastics, they're in this, they're in food, they're in chicken, they're in this, they're in that. It's bad. Now we're going down to nano? What?
Disrupt embryonic development by interfering with stem cells from which tissues and organs originate. In their study, the researchers injected 25 nanometer nanoparticles into chick embryos and observed their movement using microscopes. They found that the nanoparticles prevented neural crest stem cells from moving to their proper locations, which disrupted the early stages of development. These cells are critical for the formation of various organs and tissues, such as the heart, arteries, facial features, and nervous system. 1 in 4 chick embryos had abnormally small eyes, facial malformations, thinning heart muscles, slow heart rates, and neural tube abnormalities.
See, it says 1 in 4 chicks now. Obviously, this could be cherry-picked, but I'm also curious if they can directly link it to the nanoplastics, or it could be something else. I'm very curious how they would know that.
Which can disrupt the development of the early brain and spinal cord. While the quantities of nanoplastics in the study were higher than typical human exposure levels, the researchers warned that low-level exposure to nanoplastics is still problematic because of the way they bind to neural crest cells.
Ridiculous.
In 2020, researchers detected microplastics in human placentas for the first time.
Like, what the fuck? Dark dimension, man.
Microplastics were found in all placental portions, including maternal, fetal, and chorioamniotic membranes. Microplastics carry with them substances that act as endocrine disruptors. These could cause long-term effects on human health.
Lovely.
Researchers believe that the microplastics could have reached the placenta through the parent's respiratory system or gastrointestinal tract. Nearly 360 million metric tons of plastic were produced in 2018, a number expected to double by 2025.
Lovely.
Studies like this one are only just beginning to sketch out the potential health impacts of plastic dust on animals as manufacturers churn out more of the stuff. Plastic pollution can now be found...
Jesus Christ. So at this point, you're getting fucked from birth. As if you weren't already in the economy or your social standing. You're getting fucked from birth in more ways health-wise now. Jesus Christ. Next.
Today's news without the filler.
Filler.
Investigators from the CDC fell ill while studying Ohio train derailment site. They reported symptoms of eye and throat irritation to federal safety officers.
Did the federal safety officers care?
Which are the same symptoms affecting residents around the area of the crash, although it remains unclear if the official symptoms were caused by chemical exposure. At least 26 people killed as dozens of tornadoes touched down across the southern U.S. And tornadoes have wreaked havoc across 8 states, including a stadium roof collapsing during a heavy metal concert in Illinois.
I like how they had the heavy metal concert while the tornado was going on. They were probably jamming out to that shit.
Reports state that Tennessee was one of the worst affected areas, with 9 confirmed deaths in one Tennessee county alone.
R.I.P. Tennessee.
NATO has banned TikTok on any staff devices over security concerns.
Oh, shit.
This follows in the footsteps of many Western countries
Whoa.
who have banned TikTok on government devices over concerns the app is Chinese spyware.
Which it very well could be. I've changed my opinion on that. It very well could be. But it's not TikTok's fault.
TikTok, however, continues to insist it is completely separate from Beijing.
Well, even if they weren't separate from it, they're like, why would they say that? Obviously to be transparent, but at this point, you know, it's kind of like the thing I mentioned before. Transparency here would hurt you. I mean, you know, I think it's the morally right thing to do, but I don't want to get into morals here because that could go on forever. So it's the morally right thing to do, but it would lose them a lot of business. So, and by business, I mean it could jeopardize their app. But, you know, they should be honest, but I can see an argument to why they wouldn't be. I don't think it's a morally right argument. It's a business. It's a economically and business-oriented right argument. Anyway, that's pretty cool. Next.
Hello. Trans
rights.
rights.
It's the guy with the fucking crowbar again.
It's our human rights. And yet stuff keeps happening.
What
so what's up? Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas somehow forgot to report that he's been receiving extravagant vacation gifts from a billionaire.
Okay, and that's something we're going to go over very shortly. That's how we're going to end out the video, going over something that it just really shows you how fucked we are. How against, like, not even against us these people are, because we know that. Just how corrupt it is and for how long. It's disgusting. It's so disgusting. How can we trust and let things go the way they're going? I don't get it. Why are we not like friends?
A billionaire who happens to be a prominent political donor for the Republican Party. Weird. He's just a member of an unelected lifetime appointment.
This is a little summary of what we're going to go over soon, though.
High council that gets to determine the shape of our lives. Why should he have an ethical code? North Carolina State Representative Trisha Cotham has switched parties from Democrat to Republican.
This is so fucked, by the way. Listen to what he's about to say here. This is so ass.
After being elected, handing Republicans a veto-proof supermajority in the state. Shocker, immediately after she did this, they filed a ton of bills to restrict trans rights. This woman straight up said, "Ayo, fuck them kids."
So basically, she ran as a Democrat, got elected, and then just switched sides. It's almost like she was a spy for the Republicans. It's crazy.
Joining North Carolina today are...
Like, bruh, if someone does that, like, they should be scared for their lives. Like, the people should really do something about that.
Arkansas, who is going to pass a bill that requires parental consent to use the preferred name of a child, as well as Idaho, who passed the cookie-cutter anti-trans youth healthcare bill that every other red state's passing these days. But hey, the Supreme Court at least didn't actively choose to remove a trans teen from her sports team. And speaking of trans sports, the Biden administration has proposed new Title IX alterations to basically say, hey, you can't outright ban trans people from sports. But you can choose when you want to discriminate. This is
what the hell?
Because the Biden administration will only ever go as far as is convenient to achieve power. Elon Musk
That's what I say about Congress too. Remember what I say about AOC and Jeff Jackson. Are they going this far to achieve power, to look good in the public image, or because they actually believe it? It's the thing you'll never know once the doubt is placed. It's so sad.
Wants to see you naked. Turns out that all those cameras on Tesla cars have been sending video back to Tesla HQ, where Tesla employees have been sharing them around to each other internally. These videos being passed around Tesla HQ without your permission include videos of naked people and a child being hit by a Tesla. All right, come on. There's got to be a wholesome story in here somewhere. Oh, Republicans have expelled...
So I actually didn't see this full video, so some of these things I haven't heard yet.
2 of the 3
I sent this to myself today, by the way.
Democrats they were trying to expel from the Tennessee State House. Even more notably, the 2 of the 3 who got expelled were black. And the only one who didn't get expelled was white. To be extremely clear here, when more than 10,000 students went to their local state house demanding change, their leaders ejected 2 black men who represented their ideals from the state house. On the ground...
Just listen to that. Like, bro, I don't even know what to say anymore. This is just so sick.
Of being rowdy. If being loud about your dissenting opinion is enough to have you ejected from your elected position, then what the fuck are we doing here? These politicians have made it clear that they...
This is like a fantasy land. Like, I sometimes can't believe this is real life. I can believe it's the dark dimension, though.
I prefer it when black people shut up and children don't complain so loud as they're bleeding out. Rapid fire. Protesters in France stormed BlackRock's headquarters, and it is beautiful.
Yeah, see, look, all the regular people who know the significance of this are cheering them on, and I love that.
People tunneled into an Apple store through their bathroom wall and stole $500,000 worth of equipment.
Damn, it's a shame they got caught.
A California police union director was caught importing fentanyl, because what else would a gang leader do? And
what the fuck?
Finally for today, the Mario movie is out, and it's actually getting a pretty good reception from fans, so, you know.
Let's go.
Yahoo!
So on the Mario movie side, I heard it did, I mean, this is completely unrelated to the dark dimension. Maybe it's a little light in it, but I heard it was pretty good. I heard the reviewers hate it, but the fans love it. And that's how it should be. The reviewers suck. Video game reviewers specifically. Okay, next! This is the last video before we get into the last video, which is the YouTube video. I love this guy too. Is this the same guy?
Hello.
It's not. Okay, I thought it was. He looks similar, but he's not ginger. Let's see. This is a little old, as you can see, but it's still relevant.
Did you hear the news?
Whoa.
Are you talking about the 7 CDC workers who fell ill while investigating the East Palestine train derailment in Ohio?
That they keep saying is okay. Again, how can we trust them? How can we trust them when stuff like this keeps happening? We can't.
No.
No. Oh.
You must be referring to the 10,000 students who marched on the government buildings in the state of Tennessee, you know, demanding that maybe they not get killed in their school.
We just talked about that.
While they're attending school. Funny. I didn't hear anything about that in the media. But no!
Oh my god.
Sleepy Joe signs executive order instructing Congress to come up with a plan to regulate cryptocurrency.
The thing that was supposed to be free, that was supposed to give power to the people, they want to regulate. Shocker. My god.
Well, what then? HBO Max is going to make a Harry Potter series. How much you want to bet they make Harry Potter a transsexual?
Jesus Christ, what the hell? After all the controversy from the the Hogwarts Legacy game, I'm surprised they're making a show. Maybe it actually did do good. I mean, I heard it do good. But anyway, that's going to be it for TikTok. Now we move on to the YouTube video.
2019, Supreme Court Justice.
And I'm going to play it at double speed because, like I said, I'm trying to mold people into adopting my ideas. They're also going to adopt double speed. So you guys better listen closely. I'll summarize it after, though.
Clarence Thomas finished out that year's term by ruling that partisan gerrymandering was totally fine. And with that, wrapped up, by the weekend, he was in full vacation mode. He hopped on a private jet and headed off to Indonesia. Judge Thomas and his wife set off on a 9-day island hopping tour on this super yacht, which comes complete with a staff and a private chef. Republican
Bruh, staff and private jet.
did the math and calculated that had Justice Thomas paid for the trip himself, it would have cost him more than $500,000, which is nearly double.
9 days, $500,000. You know, I question if you have a lot of money, how can you really spend it like that fast? This is one of the ways. You know, 9 days. These fucking billionaires probably spend like months on their places. They do whatever they want. That's crazy.
Supreme Court Justice's annual salary. But lucky for Justice Thomas, he didn't have to foot the bill because this man did. This is billionaire real estate magnate and Republican megadonor Harlan Crow. He owned the jet and the
Thank you, Mr. Crow.
yacht, and he picked up that very hefty tab. And
Hefty for who? Not for him.
Justice Thomas didn't tell anyone. He never disclosed it.
Look at this guy. Look at this guy. I want you to take a good look at him.
But justices are required to publicly report all gifts worth more than $415. Quote, anything of value that isn't fully reimbursed. Back in 2001, Thomas actually did disclose a gift that this Republican billionaire megadonor, Mr. Harlan Crow, had given him. It was a Bible that used to belong to Frederick Douglass and was valued at $19,000. So clearly Justice Thomas knows he is supposed to disclose this sort of thing, particularly when it comes
They use such a good picture here. This picture looks like this guy's pissed to be at his job.
The gifts from this guy, because this isn't the first time Mr. Crow's generosity towards Thomas has been a scandal. Mr. Crow also gave at least $500,000 to help Justice Thomas's wife, Ginny Thomas, start a conservative lobbying group. The group that then turned around and paid Ginny Thomas a salary of $120,000.
Like, are you serious right now? Are you fucking serious? This has been going on for how long?
And later evolved into Ginny Thomas's current group, which reportedly works with groups directly involved in controversial cases before the Supreme Court. Harlan Crow also gave more than $100,000 to the Yale Law Clarence Thomas Portrait Fund, which is, I don't know, quite a bit of money for a fund that maybe doesn't really need to exist. But
okay, I don't know about that. I think she's kind of putting her own opinion there.
Today, ProPublica made all of that look like change, chump change. Because it wasn't just that one undisclosed $500,000 vacation that ProPublica uncovered. They report that for more than 2 decades,
2 decades, 20 years.
2 decades, Clarence Thomas has accepted luxury trips virtually every year from Mr. Crow without disclosing them.
Like, what? What? This is a Supreme Court justice at the top, at the highest level of court in the United States. The people that test the validity of the rules that govern us, right? You can't overrule the Supreme Court unless maybe you're the president. Maybe. I don't know the way the rules work. But like, bruh, the highest court is corrupt for over 20 years. Why has this guy not been kicked out? If you do not adhere to the rules, why are you still on there? It really goes to show you, if you're in power, the rules don't apply to you. And with that, we're going to end this over 2-hour power special episode viewing reaction. Jesus, it was a long one. I didn't expect it to go this long, but I was happy that I got all my TikTok content back, so I reacted to everything. But anyway, I hope everyone enjoyed. I stream live every day, or at least I try to, at twitch.tv/Tecnics channel. You can come over there, you can hang out, we can discuss how the world is burning together. But anyway, I hope everyone enjoyed.